Welcome, one and all, to the December. I almost fucked up already by saying November. December 2nd edition of the Signals from Mars live stream. I welcome the duo of Chris Akin and Chris Czynszak to the show. How are you guys?
Good.
It's the CNC Music Factory here.
That's right.
We were trying to get Josh Toomey in, but he wasn't going to be able to make it. But he's here in spirit. If you want to pour some of your beer out on the floor there, Chris.
I see him enough as it is.
I think I'd rather drink the beer, but I get the sentiment.
So cool. So the reason that I wanted to have Chris and Chris on is that this week we had I think the metal world was all kind of shocked and surprised that we got some new Metallica.
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I don't, it's so weird that Metallica, the biggest band in the world, arguably, is able to keep everything so quiet. I mean, I have people in that camp and that know people in that camp and know people, certainly that know people in the Pantera camp, and not a peep, not a word. I mean, I had heard some rumors about the Pantera touring being announced for 2023, but no idea it was with Metallica. No idea there was a new Metallica record. I don't know how they were able to keep it so quiet, but bravo to them.
Yeah, they must have had a very small group of people that were in the know about this, and that's the biggest shock, is that a band that big in 2022 can pull off having that stay under wraps, because it took me by complete surprise, and then even more pleasantly surprised when I listened to the song and actually loved it. And I must have listened to it like 10 times since it's come out. It's a great song. And then, of course, the curmudgeons come out of the woodwork and Megadeth's better, and it sounds like Rock-talica, not Metallica. And it's like, fuck off. I don't know. I liked it a lot. And the thing that
Hold on,
I
Chris,
posted about it earlier this week, and about the whole comparison thing. Why do we have to turn everything into a competition? It's like,
Czynszak, hold on. You're Robert Fleischmaning the show for me here. You've already eaten up like 10 questions.
Sorry. It's your car.
You're excited. I get it. But we'll get to all that stuff. But real quickly, we're going with the shock factor here. Think about it. They recorded the album. They recorded a fucking video. Mm-hmm. How many people were in the loop for a video? I mean, sure, nowadays you can record stuff on green screen. You can keep it small, but Q Prime Metallica is not doing that. I mean, they've probably hired a crew for this. I'm sure there are plenty of NDAs and shit that were in full effect. You don't think so, Chris?
I don't. I'll tell you why. Metallica's big enough that they have all those people. They have all those people already on staff. I mean, every time Metallica plays a show, you get a pro shot video of the show and pro recorded audio of the show. And they have that all on staff. Metallica is truly a business, business that employs several hundred people. I think they're able to keep it quiet because it's people that are loyal to them. I know a couple people on the crew, and they're well paid. I mean, especially when you hear numbers comparatively to other crews, that work like, various other tours, and they're well paid to be in Metallica. So the last thing they're going to do is risk blowing up their spot by saying, "Hey, you're not going to believe what I heard. New Metallica." They're more than willing to keep it quiet.
Yeah, that makes complete sense, because as you're saying, every show has its own thing, has its own merch, has its own footage that they've shot. They go out and they shoot the day before. They've got stuff on the big screens from the to make it all friendly, to make everyone feel like a family.
I hate that.
I knew that I had to shoehorn that in somewhere, because
of course.
So, I mean, obviously Lars went on Stern to promote this. No Knotfest pulling any strings to get Lars on Toomey's.
Please, we can't even get Slipknot on our show. think we're gonna get Metallica? We're gonna get Slipknot on Knotfest show. So it's not gonna happen that way.
All right. So the song, both of you guys are saying that you really like the song.
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I love it. I think it's great.
Yeah. To me, I mean, I think it's a continuation of some of the things that they've done on the last two albums. I think the production has probably helped point it back in more of an old school direction, where I think if you hear tracks like Spit Up the Bone or even My Apocalypse, it's kind of like in the same vein.
It's
Am I
not as
crazy to say
long.
that?
It's not as long. That's the part that I like the best, is that they seem to have forgotten their inner Iron Maiden that they've been channeling for the last two records, and they just did. Now the rest of the record might be all 12-minute songs for all I know. I have no idea, but you know, the first, was it 3.5 minutes or something? It's a nice, short, concise, to the point song. And is it the best Metallica song ever? No, but it's just good. It's just, if you like Metallica, there's no way you don't like the song. And it's a great tease for, you know, now I want the whole thing. It teased me enough to drop $15 or whatever it was to pre-order it, and then drop, you know, more money later to buy a ticket later in the week. So, you know, good enough. That's what it was supposed to do.
I think my first impression off of it was this has a Kill 'Em All vibe to it, and then somebody kind of put together an interesting mashup video, which basically brought it all home. And the video is called "Hit the Lux," and they transposed Lux Æterna with "Hit the Lights" from Kill 'Em All, and there's a lot of stuff that matches up. So, and then there's you know, was it the Full Speed or Nothing? That's a line from Motor Breath. So there's like little callbacks, and it's definitely I feel like they're trying to pull the vibe from Kill 'Em All on that song. Now, if that's a harbinger of what's going to happen on the record, I'm really going to be happy, because that's my favorite Metallica record. But yeah, I mean, I hear the Motorhead influence. You know, it's like Motorhead meets Diamond Head. That was kind of their early sound. So no, I think it's a great appetizer to what we're going to get on the whole record.
Agreed.
Yeah, Ed Ferguson, who's one of my patrons, has been saying this all week, that it sounds like Garage Day production, which he thinks is their best sound. And I've heard that from a few different people, that it sounds like Garage Days. So I don't think that's a bad thing.
No, not at all. I mean, it's just raw Metallica. Look, I don't know what people are expecting. You know, I don't know if people want. For Metallica's that band. No matter what they do, people are going to say, "Oh, this is shit." You know, It just doesn't matter. If they do something that sounds like the Black Album, all the old heads are going to be like, "Oh, well, they haven't been good since Justice." If they make something that sounds old, all the new people will be like, "Well, where's the Unforgiven 4 or whatever?" You know, I mean, they are the most complained about band in the history of the world, and I do it too. I'm not going to lie and say I don't. I mean, I don't like a lot of what Metallica does as my favorite band of all time. I don't like what Metallica does sometimes, but shit, it's hard to complain about just a good solid song, and say what you want about them. They do go out of their way to give you a quality product every single time, whether it's the tour, whether it's the songs. You know, they released they could have done the easy thing and released a new song with a lyric video or something.
Right.
And they didn't. They went full out. You know, you got the full media blitz at the time of release. You got Lars out there actually doing some work and promoting it. And, you know, I mean, he's Lars. He don't ever have to. He's a guy who doesn't ever have to. They could lay that all on Robert and Kirk these days.
Right.
And no, it's the main guy that's out there shucking it. And he doesn't have to anymore. And that's kind of what's always separated Metallica from the rest of the pack, is that they work. When it's time to work, they work, and they work harder, and they produce a quality product pretty much every time.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, I was waiting for somebody to say I wanted it to sound like Lulu, but I haven't seen that yet. You know, that would be funny if somebody actually said that, but I don't know. I saw their official YouTube channel. They did like a very long, in-depth, in-person interview with the whole band. That was pretty interesting. I don't know if you guys got a chance to see that.
Was that with Jose Mangan?
No, I watched some of that, but I don't know, man. I can only deal with Jose in small doses. But that's just me. Super nice guy, but no, it was with some British journalist. I'm not sure what his name was.
I haven't seen that.
It was like a black and white, and that's the thing. They were streaming it live from their YouTube channel, and I had paused it because I went to bed for the night, but it was like going on, and then I came back the next morning and it had been set to private. But I shared the link the night before, so I was able to click it and go back in and watch it. If you go on my profile, you can find the link for it. But it's a really in-depth, long interview with the whole band.
Very cool.
Yeah. The other thing that stood out from the video, if you guys have noticed this, and being Chris Akin is a drummer. So did you notice Lars's kit?
It's the Black Album kit, right?
Yeah, it definitely was. Look, I didn't really notice the kit as much as I noticed the sound was surprisingly good. And I definitely have been a critic of Lars as a drummer. He has been a very not good drummer for a lot of years, and the drumming was really solid. It sounded good, and again, mixed well, sounds good.
Mm.
I got no complaints. I really have no complaints.
To your point before too, again, biggest band in the world, so also largest amount of haters as well.
Easily.
Yeah. It's killed me to read on social media some of the stuff that you guys have already said. And actual members of bands that I've had on the show, people that I've interviewed before, yeah, they haven't put out anything good since Justice, or, this is total crap. It's just them ripping off, as you said before, Chris Czynszak, Motorhead and Diamond Head. And, this will never be better than Master of Puppets. Why does everything have to be better than something else? Can you just enjoy what you're getting if it's good? Can you just be entertained by it? I don't get that factor of, do you have to compare every meal with something else?
Look, every band, no matter who your favorite band is, they put out a record that wasn't as good as the last one at some point. Right. Unless they die in a plane crash. That's the only way it doesn't happen. Well, every band, every single
Leonard Skinner.
Yeah, there you go. But even them, they had some clunkers too.
Yeah,
they weren't exactly all solid. Look, my second favorite, probably my first favorite, my true favorite band of all time is Pantera.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even listen to Reinventing the Steel because I just think it was such a monumental letdown compared to Great Southern Trendkill. And I don't listen to it. Every once in a while I pull a song out, but and that's my that's my go-to band. Every band. I don't care who you like. You're Czynszak, I know you guys are Kiss heads over there, and I guarantee you there's a bunch of Kiss records you don't like. As well,
you got
as
an hour.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
And you're being modest with an hour.
Yeah, I could go longer.
But yeah, so there's even now videos. Well, this is what Kirk should have done on the solo, and I'm thinking, wow, I heard the solo. I was like,
kind of good to me.
This is a cool solo. This is something I didn't expect him to play. No wah-wah.
Thank God.
Just a quick solo that again harkened back to a lot of his earlier playing.
Sure.
Well, he does do a quick little lead break before going into the second verse, and the wah comes out, and that was the moment I was like, oh God, no, not another wah guitar solo. But thankfully, once he got into the solo, it wasn't there.
Right. I don't remember if I said this on Toomey or if I just said it to Toomey, on the phone. But the day that the single was released, that night I was dicking around on my iPad, watching TV or whatever, and I came across an article. I think it was on Louder Sound or Louder Rock, one of these louder sites. Yeah. That had a picture of the burned guitar on the cover art, and it was like, what is the secret meaning to this guitar? And I was like, Jesus Christ, the thing has been out 10 hours and you're analyzing the cover. It's like, relax, just enjoy this for a minute. You don't have to tear it down.
What's going to happen then? They're going to be analyzing every little piece of that cover now. What does the yellow mean? How does it, did they copy Rat with their self-titled 1990 album? Is it called, the shadow, the shadowy figure on the Rat album? Is it a comparison to the single,
No, yeah. Which one of the 72 seasons does this song represent? Shut up.
Right.
Just shut up. It's a bunch of songs with a name on it. Just deal with it.
when I posted the album cover after I posted the link to the video, and one of my friends on there was like, I love the song, but the album cover sucks. And I was like, it's better than the reverse scenario, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you're not going to, let's be honest, it's not Derek Riggs. So you're not going to sit there like trying to find every little detail. Well, obviously Louder, whoever is, but normal people, you know, aren't going to sit there and say, all right, album cover's okay.
Well,
if the album kicks ass, who gives a fuck?
Well, most people are going to view the album cover this big, so it doesn't matter.
Right. And that's a very important point.
Yeah, and really, I mean, I could do without the yellow. I think the yellow is kind of, but you know, if I was picking it apart, that would be it. But I don't think the album cover's that bad. I mean, the whole 72 seasons, you know, the birth to 18 years old thing, you know, and it has all the different burned out, like the burned out pieces of your life that you graduated from. I mean, if you really want to dig into the album cover, it's kind of it has to come from Lars's head because it's artsy, but it's actually kind of cool, and it makes sort of sense when you look at it, you know, with the guitar being the middle of Metallica.
Yeah.
72 seasons is like 18 years, right?
18 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 72 seasons of life that shapes your mind. It's from some philosopher or something. And sadly, I knew that when I saw the name. I was like, I'm the dumbest fuck in the room, and I knew that, so people should get it.
It's a better cover than Death Magnetic was, which, you know, gave all kinds of strange vibes when I saw that for the first time. What the hell are they going for here?
The other thing too, the first thing that I noticed, the name of their label is blackened. Everything's blackened. So theoretically, everything on that cover outside of the yellow is blackened as well. So that
could be that too. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see. Ed brings up a good point. They will probably sell it in multiple colors, so fans will need to buy them all. So
maybe
that's a good.
Did they do that? Did they do that with Hardwired?
I can't remember.
I don't remember if they did, like, with the different faces being different levels of fucked up when they, you know, on the covers. I don't remember.
There was multiple versions.
Yeah.
I know there were multiple. I don't remember what the hook of it was. I just bought one.
No, but
yeah, I don't know.
Well, the vinyl is they had I don't know how many variations of it. Like the box that I have behind me, like every vinyl has what you just described, Chris Akin. It has each of their faces by itself.
Okay.
So it's all kind of like spread out. And I have Death Magnetic back here, which is just some like weird variation of it, which is everything on 45.
Right.
So it's like one song per side. It's 6 vinyls.
Right. Huh. Okay.
So somebody actually mentioned something similar to this. You guys brought up plane crashes and people dying. Yeah. How many of these haters will have Lars as their cover picture on Facebook when he dies after talking all of this shit? It's going to be the first fucker to put them, you know, oh man, you know, he meant so much to me. Yeah, but you talked shit all these years about him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. It's true. I know. Look, we could go for days and days about how endlessly awful the internet is, and it really just spawns people letting their inner dick outward. But it just, you know, I don't know, with music especially, you know, if a band puts out a good song, I try to just enjoy it.
Right.
You know, I really do try. And honestly, if they put out something, unless it's wretchedly bad, I mean, what we do is talk about music. So obviously, if it's really bad, you got to hammer it. But, you know, it's like I'll put a kind of a practical example up. You know, everybody and their brother complaining about this Wasp tour. And, you know, and it's like, you know what? Go enjoy the show. If you want to go see the show, enjoy the show. Be happy that you're getting a good show. Don't lay into your inner Eddie trunk and fucking hate on. Well, they're using backing tracks, so it must be shit. Because you know what? You could easily be at a Dawkins show where you're getting all real vocals. And guess what? That sure as fuck ain't going to be as good as what you're getting with the backing tracks at the Wasp show. Yeah. So enjoy yourself. Jesus. Relax.
Yeah. Chris Czynszak and I talked about that the other day with Kiss playing in Japan, where they busted out a song that wasn't in the regular set list, and it was live, and it was terrible.
They did, they did Making Love, and they had no tracks for Paul to mime to, and I'm sure everyone in that audience was like, "God, where's the track? We need the track." And the funniest,
and this was at a show that also had tracks, so like all the songs sounded good, and then one track sounded bad.
Yeah, it's like talk about exposing yourself, and then
wow.
At the end of Rock and Roll All Night, Paul will yell out the city name before he says good night. Well, he's trying to say Tokyo, but it comes off sounding like "fuck you."
Nice.
But I can't get my voice to crack like his did, but like anyone going to a Kiss concert, in between songs, you know what happens in between songs is he's having to talk into the mic, and it's all scratchy and shit, and then all of a sudden the vocals sound fine, and it's like I don't know. I could talk Kiss for an hour, but yeah, God. But you brought up Don Dokken. Of anyone who needs to use tracks, Jesus.
Well, and the point is if you like Dokken, what would you rather see? A good show or the real, quote unquote, real show? I know what I'd rather see. That ain't what they're doing.
Dokken tribute band, to be honest. But
well, honestly, that's the point. Is I'd rather see good vocals. I don't care who's. It's the same argument even with the Pantera tour. That's, is it a tour? Is it a reunion? Is it really Pantera? Do the songs sound good? Okay, good enough.
No,
good enough for me. I'm just going to hear those tunes.
Yeah. At the end of
I agree.
I hit the back one again. All right. Anyway, at the end of the day, it's entertainment. You want to be entertained. You want to disconnect. And I mean, again, it's one of these things where if you're paying these prices for shows, and you're, especially Kiss, if you're paying those prices and you're getting what you just described for Making Love, if you're getting that for every single song, wouldn't you be pissed?
Yeah. Dude, like you were mentioning before about, I think it's before we started, when you were talking about the Metallica thing where they're offering, a ticket in Europe and a ticket in the US, and you got to pay for plane tickets and everything else.
Yeah.
That show better sound pretty goddamn awesome for me to shell out cruise money to go to it. And props to Metallica. They don't seem to have to use tracks or don't use tracks as far as I've been able to tell from seeing them. And hey, that's great. But if they needed to, if I was shelling out $3,000, you better believe I'd be okay with the tracks as long as they're there and they're somewhat performing. I want a good show, period.
Yeah. Well, and from the livemetallica.com or whatever the site is called now, you bought the Johnny Z show.
Mm-hmm.
Was that edited at all?
No, not at all. And it's not very good. I ain't gonna lie. I mean, it's definitely not great, but it's real. I mean, it's real, and it's not the worst thing that I've ever heard, but it just, Metallica can't play those old songs. People need to accept that. They still do play those old songs, but they play them down a step, or they play them slower, mostly slower, because Lars can't play them. Lars just can't play that fast anymore. And, fair enough. What do you want? Somehow I don't think my grandfather could have played Hit the Lights either. So
I'd love to see it though.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen that myself, but how old are Metallica? They're in their 60s, right?
Yeah, they have to be.
And they're playing some pretty hard metal. I mean, even the most newer stuff, Spit Out the Bone, or anything, This Is Just Your Life, or whatever. Those are fast songs for old men to play,
right?
And they still bring it pretty hard enough. I could deal without the happy stuff with Metallica. Hey friends, we got some 7-year-olds in the audience, and it's fantastic tonight. Part of the Metallica family. Ugh. Get angry again. That's all I wish they would do.
Well, one of my friends sent me with the guy who sent me the link to the new song, because I hadn't heard about it. He's a big Metallica fan. He was like, James is getting divorced. I guess divorce does a band good. He sounds angry.
Yeah. Well, if he starts drinking again, then we'll know. Then we'll know he's back.
There you go. James is 59.
Okay.
Billy Vallow, former singer of Him, recently said that after John Bonham, Lars Ulrich is one of the most important drummers of all time.
So did he get the tour?
Well, apparently he didn't.
Yeah, so there you go. He was trying to. He was angling for the tour. Jesus, that's a dumb statement.
Well, how many people do you think the Black Album has influenced, though?
Oh, a lot.
Okay, on that level, maybe, but even in that style at that time, he was never the best drummer.
Right.
He was, there was always Dave Lombardo. And I mean, if you're going to really look at that time, there was Dave Lombardo. By the time Metallica got huge, Lars was not playing fast anymore.
Right. Wow.
So, I guess the band maybe. See, I would say Metallica influenced a bunch of people, but Lars, I don't know about all that. That's a little nutty.
Are you saying that he needs to hand back all of those Metal Edge Drummer of the Year awards now?
Yes. Yes. Simple answer. Yes. I mean, dude, if you pick all of those bands in that era, if you really go back to when he got all those awards, who was he beating out? He was beating out guys from Testament, Death Angel, Megadeth, beating out Nick Menza. He's beating out Dave Lombardo. Are you kidding me? Mike Borden. There was a ton of great drummers that were better than Lars. And look, I'll tell this honestly. I'm a kid that bought my first set of drums that I ever bought was the Tama double bass because I saw Metallica with it. So on that level, he influenced me to buy the same kit he was playing. But as far as actually what I was trying to play was definitely not Lars, popular Lars. Mm-hmm. It was the back when he still had a ton of skill Lars.
There you go. Blabbermouth headline. Chris Akin influenced by Lars Ulrich.
Somehow I don't think unless I want to spew some politics, I don't think Blabbermouth's going to put me in a headline.
Or if you mentioned Corey Taylor, maybe.
No, that's true too.
Chris, you talked about Chris Akin. You talked about tickets. We talked a little bit off air. We've been going back and forth about this. You've talked different angles of this, but one of the things that kind of rang true to me after listening to this week's show with Toomey is how does the band not realize that a lot of these tickets are really fucking over the fans? Because as you're saying, a lot of these tickets are cruise tickets, they're $7,000 for some of these packages. Obviously you've also got the other side of the coin to discuss, but I mean, it's surprising that somebody that's a band that's been so much about the fan all these years that they've kind of flipped this switch all of a sudden.
I honestly think as all these guys are crawling toward retirement, they're just like, fuck it. We're just going to cash in, because you're seeing it across the board. Kiss is doing it. Metallica's doing it. Springsteen's doing it. Springsteen laughing about it. Springsteen's like, haha, good. And this guy was who was more about the fans and about the working man than Springsteen.
Yeah.
And he's happily selling his tickets for $3,000 to $10,000 a ticket. He's happy that he's cashing in. So, I mean, it's disgusting. And I'm not going to lie, when I saw the Metallica packages, I was pretty disgusted when I see anything that's even $1,000, truthfully, even $500. That's ridiculous. I could reasonably see spending like $250 to sit like to stand in the snake pit. Cause I've done the snake pit before. I did the snake pit in 93. I think it was with, in Sacramento. I did it with, Metallica, obviously. And it was a great experience. And would it be worth $250? Yeah, definitely would be. $1,000? Definitely not. It's not. There's no band worth a Led Zeppelin digging John Bonham up and propping him behind the drums is not worth $1,000. It's just not.
Amen.
That's a lot of money for anybody. I don't care how much money you have. That's a lot of money to see a band perform. And I think the packages are just, they know they have their super fans and they know that they can rape those super fans, and that's their job, is to take that money. And it is weird because with the Metallica tour, I am talking out both sides of my ass on this because the packages are ridiculously expensive. They're absolutely ridiculous. But the ticket that I bought, which is good for 2 shows, it was honestly, I'll say cheap. Was very cheap when you consider that I get to see 2 shows of Metallica, the biggest band in the world, the most anticipated reunion in the world, Wolfgang Van Halen, and the biggest modern metal band in the world. And my ticket was $125. That's after fees, after everything. $125, and I'm not sitting in the parking lot to see it. I'm sitting in a decent seat. That's downright cheap. Really. I mean, honestly, I could see for any of those bands except Wolfie, I could see a ticket being $125 just for one of the bands.
Right.
So, I mean, there are ways to get in for a decent price, but man, if you want the good tickets, you better have a second mortgage on standby.
Yeah. Ed also chiming in again with this. How much that would suck if I was 17 and only had a fast food job money to see shows. It's similar to what you and Matt talked about recently about being able to see all these shows for $10 a pop. How many, I get the equation that these bands aren't making as much money as maybe they were before, not a Metallica, but also this whole theory of, well, the industry's dying because the fans are doing this, the fans are doing that. Well, if tickets were $10, if they're $20, if there's something reasonable, you'd probably pull in more people and get people behind some of the younger bands. But if these younger bands are going out and it's already a $50 ticket, it's a $60 ticket, then people are spending money on other things.
Yeah, no, but I mean, look, but as the band, as the entity, and really, it's kind of not even really the band's fault as much as everybody wants to put it on the band because it's the band's name. I can guarantee you Metallica is not making X amount of ticket money. Metallica is not taking 75% of the ticket income. Metallica is saying, look, we'll come to your city for 2 nights for $5 million or $10 million or whatever it is.
Right.
And they're getting paid that no matter what. And it's Ticketmaster and Live Nation that are setting the pricing for all that. And, the meet and greets and all that stuff. Now that is set by the band, but even that I don't think is probably completely set by the band. I think a lot of that is set by the management company. I would guarantee you up until the day that they started promoting it, the band had no idea what the ticket prices were. I would bet you I guarantee you they weren't like, all right, Lars, so we're going to sell the one package for $7.95 and we're going to give everybody 2 beers, because Lars could give a shit. He doesn't even know what $795 is anymore.
Right.
I mean, I guarantee you the band is not consulted on this stuff. It's more the venue and it's the management. And unfortunately, we're in an era now where the only time you're going to see a band for cheap is if they're on their way out, either on their way up or on their way out. You're not going to see a band that's popular in the middle of their popularity for a reasonable price. That day is done.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. The meet and greets kind of surprised me as well, because for the longest time, it was all the fan club stuff. You remember the fan club?
I was in it.
And if you were able to get your name drawn or whatever, you got into the meet and greet. There was nothing additional that you were paying, and then now when they've flipped it over to making it the kind of the way that Kiss has been doing it all these years, that kind of caught me off guard. But you're probably right, because these guys are surrounded by Q Prime and their team and everything, you know, all the yes people that they have around them. And I'm sure that they're setting up all the prices to make sure that, you know, they're getting what they want out of this. Q Prime is, and let's be honest, they're all out to make money. So I mean, it's no fault of theirs, because if we as the consumer are stupid enough to pay these prices, then why not? You know, if no one were to buy this shit, if no one was to pay for the meet and greets, shit would dry up in a day.
Well, it would, but you would also, in the case of Metallica, and again, I hate these conversations because I do talk out of both sides of my mouth constantly on this. In the case of Metallica, and I'll say Kiss too, since we're lumping Kiss into it, regardless of how much money they're making, they're not doing it on the cheap. You know, Kiss, Metallica, biggest shows you're going to see, biggest staging, most pyro, most extra money put into the staging and the show and the lights, and add TSO as the third one, you know, but they have to invest to do this. And Metallica especially, they take out a TV crew to every show. They take out an audio crew to every show. They take out artists to every show to do individual art paintings, and, you know, everything that they do is customized toward that city and that specific show. You know, the last time Metallica toured last year, they swung by Pittsburgh, and my buddy Ed ran into James Hetfield in the hotel, just coincidentally, and Hetfield gave him some guitar picks, and the guitar picks were customized to the day and city.
Oh, wow.
So Metallica does that on that level, you know, where everything is very, and that's not cheap. It's probably 50 times the cost just on guitar picks, which I know they don't cost shit, but it's probably 50 times the cost to have a different box of guitar picks for every city of every show of a tour than it is to have one guitar, you know, one box of picks or 5 boxes of picks that say Hetfield on the front and Metallica on the back, you know. So they do it at the biggest level, and you get a quality product. You know, say what you will about Metallica, say what you will about the quality of their shows and the quality of their performance or whatever. When you watch one of their videos on YouTube, A, it looks like a TV broadcast, because it kind of is. And B, when you see that stage, ain't nothing as big as that, nothing as grand as that, and nothing that looks as good as that. Well, that costs money, so they gotta cost more to do that.
That's you know, completely legit what you're saying. It's, you got to make, yes, if you're going to be putting that style of show out, you got to dump money into it. You got to put money into it to get money out of it. So makes sense.
And it's not as simple as just building a stage. You got to build something on that grand scale that you can move every day, that you can move and put back together and be ready to go the next day. You know, I mean, it takes a lot to do that. So again, all this being said, I'm still not going to say that the prices are legit, because they're not. They're ridiculous. But at least when you go see a Metallica, if you spend $500, $1,000, $2,000, you're going to get the highest end show you can possibly get. You know, you're not going to get there, and it's not going to seem like an LA Gun show where you got one guy playing in the toilet and the other guy, you know, sitting on the side of the stage. You know, it's gonna seem like a really high end pro show.
Hey man, that's rock and roll, man. He was playing in the John.
I was hoping Kirk Hammett would play from the toilet, but that's just me.
Do the opening acts surprise you guys? Wolfgang, Five Finger Death Punch, Ice Nine Kills, and Pantera.
That makes sense to me. It seems like a Metallica bill to me. The thing I like about it is obviously putting Pantera on there. The minute I saw the announcement, I was like, my God, Josh Toomey's head's going to explode, because it's like his 2 favorite bands. But I thought that was cool. I mean, I could take or leave Wolfie. I mean, he's talented and all, but the album he did does nothing for me. But Ice Nine Kills, I mean, that's Metallica trying to kind of lend a hand, I guess, to a newer band. But the fact they're doing 2 shows at each city makes me wonder what the production and staging is going to be like this time. And also because Metallica could have gone out and played stadiums on their own without Pantera. So the fact that they're doing it with them, this is going to be a massive show. I wonder what Pantera's stage set is going to look like.
Yeah, Pantera. I mean, I think it's the perfect gig for Pantera. I've seen a bunch of people complaining that Pantera is going out with Metallica like it's a bad thing, and I'm just like,
amazing.
Geez, they're playing one show a week on the best staging they could possibly play. They don't have to pay for anything. They just got to get themselves to the venue each day, and they only have to play one show a week.
It's ideal for them.
It's the perfect way for them to dip their toe back into the water. And more than likely, they'll announce solo shows in between. I can't see that they're going to do fly-ins. The only thing I could see is that they're going to have to work around BLS touring and Anthrax touring.
Yeah, right.
But I think it's a great thing. I think the biggest problem that's going to happen, and I can tell you for one, I'm one of these people that it's going to happen for my tickets in Ford Field. Five Finger Death Punch and Ice Nine Kills are going to be playing to half empty stadiums.
Yeah.
Because you can't buy singles. You can only buy tickets for both shows.
You have to buy both shows?
Yeah. Well, it just comes with both shows. I just want to buy the Pantera night. I don't want to buy the other ones. So and that's where I'm at. I'm not going to. My show is on a Friday and a Sunday in Detroit, which is not too far, but it's like an hour, like 2.5 hours from me.
Mm-hmm.
You think I'm really going to stay? You think I'm really going to take an extra day of hotel just to hang out in Detroit for no reason, and then another day to see Metallica a second day? No. Yeah. I'm going to go see the show I want to see, and I'm going home. And from what the website said, you can't transfer the ticket to somebody else to use it. So, sorry, you're going to play in front of an empty stadium, as far as I'm concerned, or at least an empty seat. Wow. Mine, because I'm not coming back. Hell no.
That's got to change, you would think. I don't know.
I would hope that they're going to realize that the second day is going to be much. I mean, if it's 60,000 seats, at least 15,000 will not come back the second day.
Mm-hmm. I just want to see the one. Yeah.
I think most people want to see
two different Metallica shows. I mean, one is enough, and I want to see Pantera. That's all I'm interested in.
I mean, no offense to Five Finger Death Punch. I'm not a fan personally. I find them a little generic, but it's a great gig for them.
Sure.
But is it a hook for a fan? I don't think it's a hook for a Metallica fan. Pantera is a hook for a Metallica fan.
Yeah.
I don't think that anybody that's 50 years old is going to be like, well, let's stay 2 days in Chicago at $199 for a hotel room, and feeding ourselves and everything else so that we can come back the second day to see a band we just saw yesterday and a band we don't listen to.
Well, to me, what would have been the hook for a lot of people would be do the first show with Pantera and have Wolfie open up, but the second show have Megadeth open up.
That would have been great. That would have been a good hook. Yeah.
A lot of people would buy both tickets for that.
Yeah. Or split the big four in half, do 2 on one night and 2 on another night, or 3 on the other night, or whatever you got to do, however you work that out. But
that would all have worked with Anthrax on the off night, who knows?
Yeah. Well, that's it. You put Anthrax the other night.
Yeah,
that would be perfect.
Could have had Anthrax and BLS and Down.
Yeah, why not? They're all there.
That's why. That's what I'm saying. You wouldn't have to do much more than what you've actually got. Just a few extra members.
Exactly.
You had to bring up Megadeth, and that was my next point. Mustaine has been chirping a lot about wanting to do big four shows again. Is it possible that maybe there was an inkling that this was taking place and they were somehow, trying to work something like that out? And at the end of the day, they said, fuck it. We're not dealing with this guy.
Probably.
Yeah. I would say that I would certainly think that it was approached. Yeah. I would certainly think that Mustaine was definitely approached, which is why he was chirping about it. But Mustaine gotta accept it. When he cut loose Ellison for the second time, he greatly lowered the value of Megadeth.
He did.
You know, and the album's great. I'm certainly not going to say that the album is not really a fun listen, and
yeah, I like it.
But you know, I mean, Megadeth with one guy is very different than Megadeth with two guys or three guys, you know, that are still active and playing. So.
Yeah, I think it probably got broached or Mustaine went to the Metallica camp asking about doing it, and I'd love to see it. I think it would be an amazing tour, but I'm sure even if it got discussed, like Chris said, it was without Ellison there, it lowers the value of them as far as what. No matter what Mustaine thinks, there are people that to them it took a drop in interest in seeing them live when Ellison was out of the picture. I don't care what Mustaine wants to think.
Well, and even if you think about the way the tour lined up, I mean, where are you going to put Megadeth? The only band you're going to really replace Megadeth with on the tour that's announced right now is Ice Nine Kills or Wolfie, because Megadeth just was the opening act for Five Finger Death Punch, so you're not going to put them in front of them.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But well, I mean, that's just ticket value. It goes back to value. If
they're a bigger draw.
If Ellison was still in the band, I don't think they opened for Five Finger Death Punch.
I agree.
So, who knows?
How pissed would Mustaine be if Ellison is brought in as a special guest stand-in bass player on this tour for one of the other bands?
Well, he would be, but I don't see that happening either.
No, but I mean, just imagine that if we've seen Dave pissed in the back in the past, I mean that would off the edge.
There is a whole great conversation the three of us could probably have over behind the scenes dealings in the Megadeth camp, especially with Ellison, but we're not going to do it on a stream right now.
Right.
I'm sure we all have stories we could share.
Oh yeah.
To Chris Akin's point with Megadeth opening up for Five Finger Death Punch, Rick Hunolt of Exodus fame recently said something to the effect of Dave Mustaine is the reason that people went to go see Metallica. So if this is actually the case, why is Metallica doing this like fucking mega big Rolling Stones scale tour and Megadeth is slogging it out on, 4-band bills on a theater tour?
Well, it sounds like Rick Hunolt is trying to get Die Humane some press, since he's not in Exodus anymore. So he'll say something crazy that'll get a headline. Because,
well, I mean, is he talking about 1981 people were the reason, he was the reason people came? Well, maybe in 1981, but not now.
But even in 81, you're telling me that Dave Mustaine is the only reason that people saw the band?
It was obviously Ron McGovney. Let's get real.
Now, back in that is look, part of this, and I have talked a bunch of bands and people that were part of that whole scene, that whole San Francisco scene. And a lot of what they remember now isn't quite the way it was.
Right.
I mean, it's all faded. It's all blurred. It's all become that Metallica was the biggest band in that scene, which even then it wasn't true. I mean, back then Exodus was the biggest band in that scene and Metallica was not even from that scene. They, kind of moved into that scene, but they never were bigger than that scene until they were signed. That they were just one of the first to be signed out of that scene. So, I think guys like Hunolt or whatever, they definitely have a different scope on it. And let's be honest, they also have different dealings with these people as individuals and not as where we look at it as Megadeth and Metallica. Right. These guys were all at house parties together where, somebody probably punched somebody in the face or somebody slept with somebody's girlfriend or whatever. And those feelings are still there, the same way as we would have that with, our college buddy that did this or that to us the wrong way.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of interpersonal stuff that goes into statements like that, but that's a crazy statement. Come on. Metallica.
I mean, that's like that's kind of like people saying, back in the day, Classic Metal Show was the biggest podcast on earth, and then Decibel Geek came in and took their place. I mean, that's complete lunacy to say something.
No, that's
like
truth. That's truth. That's why I'm getting the fuck out and moving on to all these other podcasts I'm doing. I got to keep up with you.
Hi, Neely.
Does it make sense to you guys? In the last few weeks, also we've found out about Dave torpedoing that whole No Life to Leather reissue.
Does it make sense?
Does it make sense that he wanted to work with James, and what held all this back and probably any further Big Four shows is that he wouldn't give Lars credit on one song?
No,
it makes total sense to me. I mean, it sounds completely like something Mustaine would do.
It sounds to me like he really didn't want to work with James. Sounds like he put the idea together, and then when they talked about it, he realized he wouldn't be leading the charge,
right?
And he wouldn't be the most important guy in the room,
right?
And Mustaine can't handle that.
He doesn't want to be second banana even to James Hetfield.
Yeah, especially to James Hetfield.
Yeah, probably especially
because that validates the point that Metallica was the bigger band than Megadeth. And let's be honest, if there's a we'd all be excited to hear it. I would. I would love to hear a James Hetfield and Dave Mustaine project. But who is everybody going to talk about? It's all the talk is going to be centered on. This is the first project outside of Metallica that James has ever done, other than the one Corrosion of Conformity song. And he's always kept the integrity of Metallica, but now he's going back with his old nemesis. It's all going to be about what James is doing. Right. No one's going to give a shit about what Mustaine is doing. It won't play out the way Mustaine wants it.
Did he want the band to be called MD45 by any chance? Was that
that was a jewel of a record? Oh boy!
Come on, you like the re-record with Dave singing the song?
I did like that because it sounded much more like a Megadeth record, but the Lee Ving version was garbage.
Ooh. Yeah, I couldn't get into that one either.
After hearing Lux Æterna,
do
you think that you guys will be in a year or two from now, you'll be listening to 72 Seasons more, or The Sick, the Dying, and the Dead?
That's a good question.
It's an easy one for me. It'll be the Metallica.
You think so? I don't know. I've listened to a lot of that Megadeth album. I don't know. I have to hear the rest of 72 Seasons to really be able to tell you one way or the other.
I drop Dystopia on from time to time now, but I'm still listening to Hardwired a lot. Like I still listen to Hardwired. Maybe once a month at least. I still listen to Hardwired, or most of it. I mean, there's a couple of clunkers on there, but I mean, for the very most part, I still love it. I'm that guy. I still listen to Load and Reload. I'm a Metallica guy first, and the Megadeth is cool, but it's even with this record, which I do think it's a very cool record. I listen to like 4 or 5 songs and then I'm off back to Peace Cells or whatever, or Euthanasia or whatever. So
I will agree with you there, because the new Megadeth is you almost get fatigued after 4 or 5 songs because it becomes it's very samey once you get through a few tracks. And it's all great, but it's like I don't need to hear it from beginning to end in a shot. That's true.
Yeah, it is long too. It's very long.
And Hardwired actually there's a little bit more diversity on that record, between the songs.
Yeah, I agree.
Speaking of Hardwired, that sold 1 million copies in the US, and a part of that had to do with them including CDs with the ticket sales.
Yes.
They're not allowed to do that anymore. Do you think that 72 Seasons, they stopped it.
They're not allowed to give the CDs, or they're not allowed to count those as sales?
They're not allowed to count those as sales because Metallica did it, Prince did it. I forget how many bands.
Sammy Hagar did it.
Yeah.
Kid Rock did it.
So now they can give them away. They just can't be counted as sales. because within the ticket price.
But we're gonna count fucking Spotify streams? What? I mean, I don't. Well, I mean, I don't know. Because they've been integrating streaming into the numbers. So what's the difference?
The difference is it's kind of like the U2 album that you were forced to download on your iPod.
I get it, but I don't know.
The album sale is already forced into the ticket. So if you've already bought the album, you're getting another copy of the album because it's within the ticket price.
Yeah, I mean, I get I don't know. It's just stupid. But
so my question is, does 72 seasons break 1 million without that?
Without that, probably not.
Well, how many exactly did Hardwired do? Did it do like 3 million or did it do 1.1 or what?
In the US, it did 1 million, it said, from what I looked online. Worldwide, it did 2.3.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. If you take that out of the equation, there's no chance, I don't think.
Yeah. Well, and look, with that old equation from Metallica, they got me for 3 sales because I bought it. I did. I bought a pair of tickets to go see it, and I got 2 copies of it, and I bought it when it went on pre-order, when it went on. So they got me for 3 sales. So I'm sure I'm not alone in that.
Most people probably.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Sales,
almost nobody goes to a show by themselves. So that's 2 sales for every husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever.
Yeah.
I bet it'll go. It on its own, it'll probably go gold, but I don't think it'll do much better than that.
Yeah, I mean, what sells these days? And what's the incentive to buy it? Just go to fucking Spotify and listen to it.
Right. All right. So I have a Pantera theory as to why they're opening up for Metallica. Why Akin and Toomey talked about the fact that they're not they're not at the top of festival bills in Europe. They're like the second band on almost every date that they're playing festival bills. So my theory is this: they're dipping their toe in the water to see what the reception is going to be. If the reception is good for them, I think we're going to be seeing a Pantera album with this lineup.
Oh, fuck. I hope not.
I hope not too. No.
And I think Charlie said that he's got riffs. He got asked about it in an interview, but I hope not.
He said he's not opposed to it.
I am.
I don't know.
That's a bridge too far.
That's a lot of hate gonna come from every single person that has a fucking Dimebag guitar, tattoo, met him, had a shot with him. That's a lot of anger gonna come back at them.
Record music, fine, but do not call it Pantera.
Call it Cowboys from Hell. Call it
anything else.
Walk, whatever. Just I don't think it's hard. Look at the backlash they're getting now. Just by running out there and calling this thing Pantera. To put music out without Dimebag and Vinny on it, I don't think so.
Well, that's why I'm saying 2 years of touring where people become accustomed to this lineup.
Look, I love Pantera. So I've said this a bunch of times already on this. They're probably my favorite band of all time. But if we're being realistic and we're not talking out of our fandom ass, Pantera was only huge for about 3 years.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not like they had a 20-year run of bigness. And I mean, for me, I saw Pantera probably 30 times. And most of the shows that I saw Pantera play were not 15, 18, 20,000 seat venues. Right. Most of them were 3,000 to 5,000 seats. I saw them here at Rhodes Arena, which is a Akron's basketball room, which holds like 3,500 people maybe. Right. I saw them at the Nautica stage a couple of times here, which holds 5,000 people. And I had the biggest show I ever saw them play. I had the pleasure of actually introing them, at Blossom Music Center. That was like 18,000 people. But the absolute bulk of their touring was smaller, was like 10,000 or smaller. I just don't think they were big enough, to command especially without Dime and Vinny. I just don't think they're big enough to command the headline spot on Wacken, on Sweden Rock, on this Chile, Monterey, whatever this thing is called that they're playing this weekend. They're just not quite big enough to do that. And I don't think they ever were.
Yeah. The other thing too is who were they playing with at that show that you introed? Because I remember they were playing with Anthrax, Morbid Angel, Slayer. You know, they were still playing with other.
Yeah, it was like Neurosis and Clutch or somebody. I don't remember exactly who it was, but I was a little drunk. But but I do remember that it was Pantera. Just was stunning. It was on the Trendkill tour. So whoever it was at Blossom Music Center on the Trendkill tour is who it was. I probably didn't watch them at all. I was hanging backstage drinking Blacktooth Grins with the band. So.
And Czynszak, have you ever communicated to Mr. Akin that there were some people that were upset with the fact that when he described his intro, that he said, "You guys are here to see Poison, right?"
Yeah.
Oh God!
There were
people that went ape shit. What's he talking about, man?
It's just, well, as we talked about at the top, there's always going to be some knucklehead in the fucking comments that has to be they've got to be the, I don't know, they have to counter what everyone else thinks. So there's always one guy that comes out of the woodwork. Poison's a great fucking band. Why does he have to talk shit about I'm like, do you not understand? He's introing Pantera to a Pantera crowd.
Right.
That was kind of the hook. That was the hook, was go as far away as I could, to get people upset. And the last thing people wanted was Pantera to be compared to a glam metal band from the 80s.
Exactly. Right.
I mean, that was kind of the point.
But
I'm glad it upset people, though. That makes me happy.
I love that people like my show and listen to it, but come on, get a clue.
Yeah.
Well, there's always that audience out there that and I'm sure they do this to both of you too, that if you guys say something about us, then it gets back to us and it's brought in a whole negative way. It's like, you guys hear what those guys at Decibel Geek said about you? And it's like, no. Oh, well, they said you guys fucking suck. And then somebody will send you the clip later on, or you'll find it and you'll be like, I'm saying it at all. Or they did. And so what? Who cares?
Yeah, well, I say that you guys suck all the time. No,
that's fine. Okay with me. Yeah, but you like me. It's Neely you don't like. I know. Fair
Guilty
enough.
as charged.
Fair enough.
I don't hate Neely. I just don't like him.
There's not going to be any Rockin' Pod talk this year. You're not going to explain Rockin' Pod to Neely again this year.
Look, I still haven't figured out what the end game is, so I have no answer for him.
I, as I said on the show, when it happened, I thought he was full of shit. When that whole thing happened, and I was not happy with that because it's like, even if, and again, I don't want to rehash old history, but my whole thing was, even if it is a bullshit thing, which I knew it wasn't going to be, but let's just say for the sake of argument, it was going to be some bullshit fucking thing. You still want to support those that are doing what you're trying to do, because it helps all of us in the long run. So to just come on and go, well, I don't know what this is about and how will this help us? It doesn't matter how it helps us. It helps us because the community gets stronger. That's it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we did expand this coming year. We're doing a comic and pop culture convention on Sunday. So I'm looking for TV stars, and I could always use a Dog the Bounty Hunter. So Neely's more than welcome to come.
Nice.
I was waiting to see if you were going to drop the reference or not, but looks like I didn't have to wait too long.
Nah, I'm just busting balls. I have no problem.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, if you heard that and you didn't understand what Chris was saying, there's no helping that person. I mean, honestly, what were you going to say? What were you going to say to rile that crowd up? Were you going to say Pretty Boy Floyd? Oh,
yeah, whatever. Motley Crue, whatever. It's going to piss off someone. Look, no matter what you do, somebody's going to be annoyed.
Right.
That's just the way it goes, and that was kind of the joke. The joke was get them booing so that when Pantera comes out, it is absolutely explosive. get them absolutely, it's that whole take them low so that they come back high type of a thing. And it worked. Believe me, when I said, who's here to see Poison tonight? I mean, I was getting batteries thrown at me and ice and all kinds of shit.
This was like what, 96 when you did
96, 97. Yeah. Somewhere in there.
So what band was a bigger punching bag than Poison? It's low hanging fruit. You have to use them.
Well, and that was it. I was just playing around, and I mean, the crowd was like, boo, just killing me. And I was like, all right, fuck it. Here's Pantera. The crowd exploded. And I walked off the stage, and Dimebag was just like, yeah, man. He thought it was funny as fuck. So it was like, all right, as long as he thinks it's funny, I'm good.
Oh.
Who out of those four do you consider the best interview? Obviously, you did one of the last interviews with Dimebag, if not the last. But out of all of those four guys, who would you consider the best to interview?
The best, that's a really hard one, just because different reasons, I guess. I mean, as far as getting somebody to say something, Phil.
Yeah,
right.
Phil, back in that day, he did not give a fuck. I mean, he would say anything, and he would answer any question, and he did. As far as fun, the most fun I ever had was with Damage Plan with Dime and Vince. But it was more. It wasn't really the interview. The interview was fun. Little scary, because I was reading back some of the things Phil had told me like a month before, and they were getting really mad at me.
Wow.
Yeah.
But the after was great, because Dimebag pulled these two monitors, big giant monitors, over toward us. After, he's like, "That's it, boy. It's me and you. It's me and you." And he climbed up on top of one. He made me climb up on the other, and we karate kid kicked each other off the speakers.
Oh wow!
he was like, on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, boom, and we both kicked each other off, and we both went down. And of course, everybody went to make sure he was okay. I just laid there on the floor, but nobody to help me. But but it was funny, and it was fun, and being around those guys was always a lot of fun. Being around Dimebag. For whatever people want to say and, see on the videos or whatever, that really was that dude. I mean, I got to know Dimebag pretty well, and not well, but fairly well, I guess. And every time I saw him, hey, let's get a drink, brother. Let's get a drink. Come on the bus. Come on. Even if we had interviews, like a lot of times Pantera would have people interview kind of on the side of the bus. Like standing on the side of the bus, and Dimebag would come out. Like a lot of times it's Vinnie Paul that would do the interviews. I interviewed Vinnie the most. And so you'd be standing on the side of the bus with Vinnie, and then Dimebag would kind of open the door and pop his head out, and he'd be like, "Come on the bus, man, come on the bus." And you come on the bus, and next thing you know, you're doing your 5th shot of a black tooth or whatever. And you're just like, you're throwing down partying, man. I definitely miss those guys. I miss the fun that I used to have with those guys, because it was a lot of fun hanging with them.
Right. Anyone come close to measuring up to them?
As far as an interview, or as far as what? Friendly?
Interview, friendly, both. I mean, what?
Bret Michaels.
Yeah, no, Bret Michaels does not.
I just love that story.
I'm obviously friendly with the Dockin boys, so I mean,
right.
I mean, I have a lot of friends in the business. David Ellison is always super friendly to me, and is somebody I consider to be a pretty good friend. I can honestly say I don't think I've ever had more fun with any major band than the Pantera boys, because Jesus God, every time you get together with those guys, it was an adventure. I mean, it was, they were a big band at the time, and they're partying at like 3 p.m. until showtime, just slamming drinks, and we're all getting hammered. And then finally they're like, "Gotta go play now, boys." And they throw us out. We go staggering back to our seats, and then they would just come out and destroy. Right. And it was like, Jesus, how are they? Meanwhile, we're trying to stay awake because we've been drinking for 6 hours or 7 hours or whatever. So they were always fun. As far as they were definitely the most fun. I still have a decent friendship with Philip. You know, Phil was super nice enough to do a little thing about my book when I wrote, you know, the burn book that I wrote. He did a nice thing for me, which was super cool. So I'm still friendly with Phil. And but yeah, Dime and Vince, they're definitely missed. I'll definitely be at the Pantera shows, kind of looking in and going, oh, well, you know, you know, it'll be good, but it ain't gonna feel like the Pantera that I kind of came up with.
Right.
I think they will appropriately pay tribute to the brothers. I think that it's going to be a big love fest for the Abbott brothers at those shows.
I think so too.
Yeah, but I think they need to do that too. I mean, because if they don't, people are going to be shitting all over it.
Yeah, but either way, I mean, it's Zach and Charlie joining them. I mean, it's like a fucking family reunion. Though they were all buddies with the Abbott brothers. So I don't think Zach, especially Zach, I don't think he would have signed on for this unless they were going to do a super tribute to them. I mean,
Charlie
I saw Black.
Yeah,
and Charlie too. I saw Black Label a couple of months ago, and you know, he does In This River, and then the banners drop with the photos of Diamond Vinny, and I got chills when that happened. I was just like, but I mean, no, I think there's going to be a lot of respect shown.
I think so too. I mean, obviously Zach loved Dime, and I mean, by the same token, Anthrax. How many years now have they had the special Dimebag Scrim that comes up every time they play In the End?
Yeah.
You know, every time they play In the End, they have a Dimebag and a Dio. Dime on one side, Dio on the other, and they tributize that. So, and they open with Pantera songs now. Like they kind of, like a lot of their shows, they open playing, you know, like Cowboys from Hell or something, like half of the song to open. So yeah, there's a lot of love for the Pantera crew. So look, it's going to be good. You know, people that are doubters, people that are looking for reasons to not go, stay home.
Yeah,
you know, it's that easy to me. Yeah, watch it on YouTube and post your shitty comments on YouTube, because I'm going to have a good time and I can't wait to see it. I've never seen Pantera in the round. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. I'm looking forward to seeing Pantera running around the stage going crazy. That's going to be fun.
Yeah. It's well, similar to what you said. You obviously said that it's not the same, but you're still a fan. There's going to be people that, regardless what they do, even if they knock it out of the park, they're going to be complaining about something, you know.
Right. Yeah. Let them.
Go ahead, have at it. Go watch whatever band you want to go watch. Go ahead.
I'm going to enjoy it for all it is.
Yeah, go watch your band play a club instead. I'll be enjoying the stadium show for once, to see two bands that I love in a stadium. Good enough for me.
Yep.
Do you see, wrapping it up with Metallica here, do you see Metallica slowing down anytime soon?
No.
There's no reason to. Yeah, I think Hetfield wants to, but there's no way to do it. I've said this a bunch of times on the various shows that I do. I think if Hetfield had his way, Metallica would end. But Hetfield is a caring dude, and he looks out there and sees the 100+ people he has to put out of work to retire, and he's just hanging on. I think Lars will always do it, because what else is he gonna do?
No.
You know,
Lars would lose his mind without it.
Yeah, and I mean, the only one that could probably bounce into something else is Robert.
Yeah,
because he's done it before. Kirk is too big and too weird, you know. I mean, you know, and Lars. I mean, who would want to be in another band with any of the other guys with those guys? You know,
I mean, Lars is the Gene Simmons of the band. I think, you know, Metallica is his identity. So I don't think Lars will ever give it up. I think he'll, even if they stop touring, he's going to be involved with Metallica in some form or fashion. But you said it right, Chris. I mean, because they're basically supporting an army of people with their crew. So I think that's a huge factor in why they continue to do it.
Yeah. That's why Hetfield's on stage crying about wondering if he can still do it or not, but then he gets up there and does it the next night. Because, you know, I think he's probably torn. And I think that's why we're getting the tour that we're getting now, where it's, you know, well, we're going to play 17 weekends a year for 2 years. You know, they're making it out. They're trying to play the angle of, well, we're doing a 2-year tour. Well, no, you're not. You're playing 30 shows. You're just spreading it out over 2 years.
Right.
You know, you're not playing, not playing like the Black Album tour where you played 600 shows in 2.5 years or whatever it was.
Right.
They couldn't do that anymore.
No. And hey, God bless them. I'm happy that they're still doing it and that they're still doing it well enough. So that's, hey, we're all getting older and all of our bands are starting to suck. Let's just call it the way it is. No matter who we like, they're starting to suck. And here's one that they're not as good as they used to be, but they're not at the suck level yet.
Mm-hmm.
Good. I will ride that until that train runs out of coal or whatever.
Right.
Could
the band continue without? Well, obviously, you guys have said, we've seen the band switching bass players, but could they continue without, let's say, Lars?
No way.
Mm-hmm.
No way. There's no. The only way that happens is if Lars dies.
Yeah.
Only way that happens is if Lars dies and the estate says go ahead and replace him with whoever, whatever, Dave Lombardo or whoever.
Yeah. Could he step aside, say, hey, you know what? I'll continue to be in the band, kind of like a John 5 McMars thing.
No.
Still in the band, but
he's too important to him.
Metallica is a big enough band where the only thing that they're going to do, if any of them decide to actually truly walk away, they're going to go straight up metaverse. They're going to become that kind of a band, holograms and metaverse. And, they are not going to replace. You're not going to go see a Metallica show with, the guy from Ice Nine Kills fronting the band. You're just not going to see that. It's not. It's never going to. It's like could the Rolling Stones go on without Mick Jagger? That's basically the same question you're asking.
Right.
The answer's a big hell no. But then again, we've seen it.
Very true.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. But who knows? Could if you'd asked us 2 years ago, could there ever be a Pantera reunion? We all would have said fuck no.
Yeah, because we've heard rumblings for the longest time. I don't think we ever saw it actually coming to.
No,
they picked the two guys they could have picked that got me interested. Yeah. Anyone else, I probably wouldn't have been as interested.
I agree with that fully.
And even Charlie said it. If anyone else, he would have been pissed if they would have picked anyone else. Not because it wasn't him, but because he doesn't think that anyone else was close enough to the brothers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
to
it's
actually
the perfect lineup.
It is.
Yeah.
And
makes the most sense.
To Chris Akin's point from before, Charlie just turned 60.
Yeah.
So, and he's not drumming like Lars is. Shit is a little more complicated. So let's see how much they can spread this out. And with them getting Metallica money, being on that tour, I mean, they're probably going to be getting more money than him doing Anthrax shows, I would imagine.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I would think so.
How many Anthrax shows are going to take place in these next 2 years?
Who knows? And Charlie misses a lot of Anthrax shows anyway, so
they always get John Dett to fill in again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this and again, this goes back to what we were saying before. This is the perfect storm for Pantera. Pantera could play one show a week, reach what they would reach with 4 or 5 shows if they were doing a solo tour.
Yep.
Yeah.
Don't have any freight to carry. Don't have any equipment. Don't have any staging.
Mm-hmm.
Just show up, play on the world's best stage for a shit ton of money once a week.
Yeah.
Yep. It's a win-win for everybody involved.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's a win for us because we get to see it.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Chris Akin, do you have any shows you want to promote? Because I think you're on a show or two.
Yeah, I do a few. There's obviously classic metal shows, Saturdays 9 to 3. And then there's Chris Akin Presents with me and Eric Ferentinos of Stephen Piercy's band. We do that live on Mondays, and then interview versions on Wednesdays and Fridays come out on the video on demand. Talk to Me is on, what days that come out? Thursdays.
Yeah.
Thursdays, that one comes out. And once a month, I do a business talk with Aftershocks TV, myself and Matt Hartnett. So I'm always in front of this fucking camera.
and I will say that most of those are must listen tos because the shows that you do with Matt, I mean, it's funny. I look at how long a show is. I'm like, fuck this. I'm not listening to a 2-hour podcast.
Yeah.
Turned it on the other day on a walk. And thanks to you guys, I walked like 8 miles, I think it was. I kept going. I'm like, this is, I need to listen to this to the end. So I just kept walking. So
I'm just happy if people are digging it and that they're not finding them all to be samey. I'm really trying hard to make them all be different.
Yeah.
Which, when you're doing 15 different hours of audio in a week, it's kind of hard to do.
Yeah.
But I think they all are different. They all have kind of a little bit of a different vibe. So check them out and pick one. If you can't pick them all, pick one and like whichever one you like. I'm good with that.
Yeah. And Mr. Czynszak, you've got a few things coming up within the next few months. Anything you want to plug?
Well, I mean, I don't do 15 shows like Chris Akin does, but I do Decibel Geek, and check that out on a pretty much a weekly basis. And then, of course, the Rockin' Pod Expo I'm working on now. Next March, just announced Eddie Ojeda from Twisted Sister, so that's fun. And then got a few other guests I'm working on I can't really announce just yet, but I think people are going to like them. Go to rockinpod.com for all that stuff.
Which a little over 4 months at this point in time.
Don't remind me, but thanks.
You just made his stress level go through the roof again.
Yeah. Why do you think I'm drinking today?
And Mr. Akin will appreciate this. As I'm adding Eddie Ojeda to the website the other day, me and Chris Czynszak are talking, and I end up putting Bobby Ojeda.
Oh, nice.
On the homepage.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's why you shouldn't be working on websites while you're bullshitting with people.
Hey, there's nothing like that. What was that, the 86 Mets? Right?
I was going to say, you had no idea the guitarist for Twisted Sister pitched for the 86 Mets.
Yeah. Second career.
and much like the Appice and the Peace Brothers, they pronounce their last names differently.
Of course they do.
So anyway, I want to thank the two of you for coming on.
Sure, man.
And I knew I told Chris Czynszak said, "Oh, I'll jump in for a little." I'm like, "Yeah, you'll be along for the ride." Yeah. So
I can't shut myself up.
Yeah, we can start talking about Kiss on another episode, and we could do a good 8-hour episode. So anyway,
we'll do it.
In any event, thank you guys for coming on. Thanks for anyone who's going to listen to this part of the show or watch it for hanging out, and those that chimed in the chat. And we'll be back in a few minutes with Cassius King, with Dan
Lorenzo.
Dan Lorenzo and Jason McMaster, who will also be at Rockin' Pod.
Nice.
So awesome. We're going to throw up a little video now for you guys, and I'll be back at the bottom of the hour with Cassius King. Thanks again to the CNC Music Factory for being part of tonight's show.
See ya.
Awesome. See you guys.
See ya.
Well, let me just say that the documentary was really cool. That was a great thing, I think, that they did, and obviously I was involved in that, and I thought it was really unique how they did every record. They really went through every single album, and that was really cool, and all the people involved in it. And I was pleased and happy that I was part of that. The live stream thing, whatever, that's what they decided to do, and it's neither here nor there in terms of my participation. I'm not too concerned about it. and or not heard either. So I mean, it's just is what it is. It's no big deal. So the documentary was important because obviously that it was touching on the history of those songs and those records. And like I said, I was happy to be part of that, and I had a lot of fun doing it. So live streams, whatever. I mean, live streams to me anyway. I'm over it. I know it sounds terrible. We did one with Saint. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I was glad we did it, especially right after Punching the Sky came out because we couldn't play it, so we had to do something. But and granted, we're trying to give fans and people something, obviously, and kudos to that. But I don't necessarily need to do another live stream personally. It was cool, did it. I'm ready to play in front of people. It's like a normal rock band. So who knows? We'll see. But I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about that or anything.
All right, cool. Yeah, I think the documentary overall was awesome, and it was funny because I think the episode before it was one of your era albums. It took longer to come out, and I was thinking, fuck, I hope they continue with this because I've talked to this at length with you in the past. We've done a storytellers episode on Anthrax, and we've talked about your era in the band. That stuff, I mean, hit me at a certain point in time where there's a very emotional connection to that. So it was important to me that your era get represented and get talked about. And I do think that outside of that one thing, and maybe that's just me being an ass and wanting more within the documentary, but I do think that it was great that nonetheless all of those albums were touched upon.
Yeah, and Megaforce has reissued some of those records, including Volume 8, which I'm super happy about. Actually, I've received some royalty checks lately, so I've been pretty stoked. And that's all I ever really wanted, in my association with Anthrax. My whole thing is just let it be available, like, who's better, what era's better, this and that. I mean, nothing really will ever compare to the 80s Anthrax in terms of it being so fresh and new and unique and when they came out. And the 90s was the 90s, and it changed and everything went with it, and they brought in a new singer, and it was a cool transition, in retrospect, and I was part of it, and always excited about those years and my contributions, and I love those records. But there was a period of time where they just were not available. Like, I would go to Amoeba here, record store here in LA, the big one, which is one of the few at this point. And I would look, browse as I'm looking for records. And of course I would look through my own stuff because I want to make sure it's there. And it was never there. It was just like, right. Wow, man, like, God, this sucks. I just want it to be available in case somebody wants to buy it. And because there was just some weird, like, when we left Elektra, we left the masters, and then we licensed those first two albums, and then they went through, and then you have to relicense them. So it's a cool thing to have the masters or whatever it is called at this point. But then you always have to license it. If you don't, then you'll sell them through and it'll be done. We experienced the same thing with Saint with the first three Chrysalis records, which are actually reissuing too. Metal Blade's reissuing those now because we worked out a deal with Chrysalis, which is awesome. They actually forgave our debt, which was a very large sum of money, and they forgave it, which was pretty awesome and pretty cool. So we're excited about that. So for me, royalties are just like, it's principle. I made the joke earlier as we started, but it's principle. I don't care if it's $10. I don't care if it's 10 grand. I don't care. I just want to get royalties is the whole purpose of what we do. Like, you want to see a check that shows that you're getting paid for this thing that you did. And it's, like I said, it's principle. It really never matters what amount it is. Well, of course it does, but when I get one, I'm just happy because it feels like it's, it justifies what you did. So when those records weren't available, it was disappointing to me. I think We've Come For You All was always out because Nuclear Blast had that in Europe, but in the States it was like Sanctuary, which I also think went under. So, I don't know, but Megaforce has done a great job reissuing the stuff with cool vinyl, and I'm in debt to Missy Collazo, who's, the queen of the label, and it's been great. So that's all I ever want, is just those things to be available.
All right. So that wasn't done on purpose. As I realized that I readied that segue like about a month ago for I was supposed to be going between two interviews, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna pull a piece out of this John Bush interview. So it just so happened as the video is playing, I'm like, shit, he's wearing that Hades t-shirt. And it wasn't as if I planned, hey, Dan Lorenzo's coming on tonight. So we're gonna have I picked out of 13 years of doing a show, the one time that somebody besides me wore a Hades t-shirt on the show.
Oh, stop.
But
I mean, the Amish Outlaws, we're one of the favorite bands of the Amish Outlaws bass player. I noticed he's in the chat room.
oh, he is okay.
Yeah. Hello, Mr. McMaster. I see you a lot lately.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. I'm not complaining.
Oh, I didn't. You don't sound like you. I don't think I've heard you complain unless it's in text, and I don't hear text. So,
what's going on, Victor? You guys know each other?
Years ago, I interviewed Jason. I had the pleasure of doing so, and the last interaction we actually had was there was somebody that was doing PR for you. It was for a Broken Teeth album, and growing up in a construction family in New Jersey, the name of the album was Bulldozer, but the
Broken Teeth, yeah.
Yeah,
it was a front loader. It's a front loader. Yeah.
So I said to the PR person, I said, "You realize that's not a bulldozer?" And he copied you on the email, not knowing that it was just a smart ass comment. And your reply was, "Yeah, well, front loader doesn't exactly have the same impact as bulldozer."
No, it's a lot less rock and roll and maybe more porno.
There you go.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think similar to you, Dan. Last time I spoke to Jason was maybe around 10 years ago.
Wow.
Well, I offended Jason last week. We were doing a live interview, and I told him, I said, I never met Jason until 7 years ago. And he told me he was in a nonfiction dressing room in Austin in 1993, which I had no recollection of, unfortunately.
Yeah, you guys came through with nonfiction, and Alan was certain to invite me, and I went down and hung out. I didn't stay for the whole show. Maybe that's it.
Thanks.
I was there kind of early, and I saw a few songs, and I had to split. But I did meet all you guys. You guys all came out and said hi. So
Jason made one hell of an impression on me, obviously, 30 years ago.
And vice versa, because if he only saw a few songs,
yeah, he walked out.
He walked out. So I guess the impression is kind of mutual.
Well, it was I guess I felt like I had better things to do. It wasn't that I didn't appreciate. I've got quite a few nonfiction records, but I need to spin those more often, I guess.
You should.
There you go. Yeah. So should everyone.
Yeah, I think so. Is that a Paul Gilbert model you have there?
Victor, what are we talking about tonight? Cassius King, perhaps, or no?
We're talking about Cassius King. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
First off, is that a Paul Gilbert model you have back there?
It is a Paul Gilbert model.
Mm-hmm. I have a question for you.
Yes.
Do you know if Paul Gilbert lives in Austin, where I am now, Austin, Texas? Do you know that to be true? No idea. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know.
It seems like a random question, but it's not. Maybe we can, talk off camera about that.
Yeah. Well, eventually when I finish putting everything up behind me, I'm going to have a nice man on the other side, because most people don't realize that that's a Paul Gilbert model. They think that the image is backwards. It's just the Iceman in reverse, which is almost what the guitar is.
No, I mean, I can read your posters. It's obviously correct.
Yeah.
Randy Rhoads is not left-handed. So
right. So there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought he was a lefty.
Says the guitar player.
I don't study guitar players. That was kind of a joke. Of course, I know Randy wasn't a lefty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Victor.
Yes.
You told me you love the new Cassius King album.
I do rather enjoy the album. And one of the things that I wanted to mention is that it seems like a lot of people are saying that you guys have stepped it up from this album, from the previous album to this album. Do you guys feel that when you guys started working on this material, that it was?
I told Jason, I said, Jason, you got to step it up. I mean, what are you doing over there, man? You know, and he's like, really? I'm like, yeah, you got to step it up. He's like, all right, calm down. He was like afraid I was going to come down. You know,
no, I remember you called me, you rang my phone like 50 times because you were trying to wake me up. You said, stop sleeping. It's time to get out of bed and make a better record than Field Trip.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's so funny. Whenever people say that, it's like, we're just writing music just like we always did. It's, I don't know.
I'll chime in on this. This is kind of at the end of the process. Well, not the final part of the process, but there's not one, as we all know, there's not one way to write a song. You know, you don't learn how to do this and then learn how to do this and then learn how to do this. And then at the end, there's a song. Mm-hmm. So, you know, writing just by, you know, someone emailing each other a part to work on to, you know, so you're not starting from scratch. So you're all on the same page. This record, the only thing we did different, honestly, was we did edit a couple of the longer songs, but only by arrangement, because when Dan sends me a mix of like, I prefer, he knows this, I prefer his guitar with drums, at least. If I can get bass on it, I'm happy as hell, and it's even easier for me to feel where the song wants me to go, because that's usually, I don't force anything. So if the bass is on there, great. If it's not, I can get through it. But some of the longer songs, two maybe three songs on here, I believe 2 songs we edited. The arrangement, only slight edits. Like this part went, you know, 8 times and I wanted it to go 4. This part went 4, I wanted it to go 2. And it was more or less me editing in like, you know, software and sending it to the engineer. And here's the suggested edit. Of course, don't use these edits because I'm crappy at it. So, but he was able to muster the suggested edits, and the flow, in my opinion, the flow of those, Dan had just, you know, kind of jammed his way through these, you know, because he's feeling it too, but with all due respect, he's not singing over it. So if you call it like colors or movements or storylines or whatever, storyboards or whatever, the way that it's going to line up, I felt like, you know, the edits were important to my melodies, and actually what some of the lyrics were, at least syllable wise, were trying to build upon. And that's really the only difference, but I'm glad that you like it. I appreciate that. And that you have the opinion that it is a stronger record just so quickly after the first.
Yeah. And after working on the first one, I'm assuming that you guys felt each other out, the band felt each other out, and probably had more of a better feeling with, okay, I can do this. I want to try this. You know, was the first album more like, you know, a touch point, whereas with the second album, you kind of went in with a clearer idea? Or, I mean, Dan just writes riffs. We know this from all the recent interviews that I've done. But from your standpoint, Jason, with the melodies, with wanting to get a vocal cadence in there, was it easier this time around? Okay, I'm going to approach this album this way because I think my voice with Dan's playing works out better this fashion as opposed to in another project.
Yeah, I love the question. I'll do my best to answer it by way of it's still not conscious to, you know, okay, we have to make a better record, you know, and does that mean, Jason, work harder on your lyrics and your, you know, do something totally different because, you know, you can do better. Come on. You know, it wasn't like that. It was more, because of, like I said before, like that we did edit a couple of the songs just for flow. maybe subconsciously Dan was writing. I honestly don't think Dan, like you said, he just writes riffs, and I always say, however you're feeling, just let it rip and do your thing. And when Ron gets in there with you on the drums after he learns the form, that's great. And then send it to me, and then I'll see how I feel about it. And I don't listen to, and I did the same on Field Trip as I did to this. I don't even really listen to it until I feel like I'm ready to sing something, whether I have lyrics or not.
Right.
So if I press play and I'm listening, and I'm familiar with Dan's riffage very well by now, if it's going to make me want to sing a certain tone in
Right.
this place, and then when it sort of opens up and feels like when it finally feels like a chorus or a tagline, depending on what I've built so far as a verse or an intro or whatever, by then the riffs have changed a little bit. Sometimes they don't even change key. He'll just keep going. But the riff will be augmented somewhat enough for me to go, okay, well that's cool. That makes me rise, climax the melody, and the notes change and the cadence change when I feel like he's breathing a different sort of breath into the B verse, the C part, the D part, whatever. And honestly, I feel like, people are calling this band and these records, these doom stoner records, and that's fine. People can call it whatever they want. I think Dan will agree that he's just kind of writing rock and roll songs, and they're influenced by all of these things that we love. Kiss, AC/DC, Aerosmith, Cheap Trick, of course, Black Sabbath, of course, Judas Priest, of course. But because of his, slightly detuning and sometimes lower and such, it's all things I've heard, his other camps say it all things lead to Black Sabbath eventually. And I think Glenn Danzig said one time, everything leads back to Motorhead. And he's not wrong either, because it's just blues. It's just rock music. If it's loud and bluesy, and, you can slice it 100 different ways, and it's all coming from this same place. So doom stoner, that's fine. Dan's riffs and the way he plays, and I'll let him comment on the way he plays now, because I've heard him talk about how he doesn't really feel like his thrash guitar playing histrionics and stylings are up to snuff these days. So he's writing this way, and coming from his heart and his influences that are still in his heart. So I'm trying to do the same thing, but I feel this dark emoting thing to Dan's riffs. So I'm writing these darker lyrics, and I'm singing in more of a chest voice. And when it opens up, the only other place as a singer I can go, good or bad or ugly, love me, hate me, I don't give a shit. But when the song sort of the flower opens up, I've got to do something different to get out of this one thing, especially if the riff doesn't change key. Usually in this kind of writing, the riffs don't really change key much. You know what I mean? Okay, now I'm going to play this high, real pretty part. Well, that's usually in the breakdown,
Right.
So I'm using these different voices, and I have about 6 different voices that I can use. And I feel like if you know my material, you know that. So I'm trying to, this is the only cap I tried to put on. I don't necessarily want to just go up into the stratosphere and sing all that high stuff just because I know I can.
Right.
And it's kind of signature and everybody knows I sing that way. I try to keep a cap on that, and sometimes that's where it ends up going. So I usually like the songs where the pre-chorus and the chorus are different enough from the verses that I've changed my voice enough, but I'm still not Geddy Lee,
Right. I think, to your point, And I was talking to someone else about this. The difference with Dan's playing to someone who's purposely a younger band that's purposely trying to make a doom album or a stoner album. Dan isn't doing that. Dan is playing to his, as you mentioned, all those bands you mentioned. The influences are there, but the way that it comes out with his tuning, it sounds like something, but he's not purposely looking for that. Whereas, again, you have kids that, oh, I have to get a 68 SG and I need to get a Laney amp or an Orange from the 70s to do this. My bass has to go through a 68 Ampeg. And no, it's Dan's hands. It's
That's
what's
right.
in his head, his feeling. And it comes out that way. It isn't that.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's kind of a river. The Lorenzo River flows that way. It isn't that, damn, I have to sit down and I got to make sure that this sounds like Tony Iommi, or I'm gonna tune to C sharp because Jimmy Page once did this, and I'm gonna, if it happens that way, I think Dan's the type of player that if it feels right, similar to what you just said with your vocals, it'll go there. But that's not the plan. Oh, I have to do this because so-and-so did it beforehand.
How do you know so much about me, Victor?
I think that even though there has been breaks in times where I didn't interview you, in 12 years, I think we said, 11 years. This year, this is the third time I'm talking to you. We've always been in contact. You've always sent me clips. We've always talked here and there. So I think if you've kept up with what you've done, you get a feel for who you are, how you write, stuff like that. And being two Jersey guys, that kind of helps too. You understand the humor, you understand the nomenclature, what goes on, what was in the water, what is in the air, that type of a thing. So I think that all helps me understand where, you come from when you're writing stuff.
Interesting.
Well, Dan mentioned, he's playing to his limitations. Those are his words. Thank God for that. You could say the same thing. I'm singing to my limitations. I'm doing whatever I can do that fits the riff. And what I think I said it a minute ago, whatever I'm hearing for the first time it's either inspiring me what to sing, giving me an idea of where I'm going to go with this immediately. And if it doesn't, that's one I put aside and I go to the next one and I press play on that one. Sometimes I have to go back and listen to something else a couple of times, but I've got my microphone in my hand. Even if I don't have any lyrics, I'm going to sing some dummy words. I'm going to sing yabba dabba doobie scooby dooby doo, whatever. And until I find something, and usually something will crack open and fall out, and that's usually where it ends up going. So I'm not going to say it's like the easiest, it's not, these songs hadn't been the easiest songs for me to write, but quite a few of them pretty fucking easy to just kind of, oh, cool, I got this. And like Dan always says, Jason works as fast as I do.
And obviously this has to give you some type of, for the two of you, some type of rush that being in Broken Teeth doesn't give you, being in Vessel of Light doesn't give you. It has to impact you and give you a rise in some fashion to be able to do that. Whereas if it was all kind of the same, it wouldn't have that same emotion. It wouldn't take, you guys wouldn't go to another gear with the stuff. It would all
I was
kind
thinking about, how so many of my friends are in bands. They've been in one band their whole life and they are still touring off their success from the 80s. And I keep switching bands. But if this was, just say if Nonfiction kept the same lineup from 1990, would I be writing the amount? Like I've released 7 albums in the last 5 years. There's no way I would have written 70 songs in the last 5 years if I had the same lineup from Nonfiction, if it was just the same band. I don't think so. I mean, I think the fact that I'm playing with some different people, it makes you excited and it makes you inspired, and I want to go upstairs and maybe say, let me try and write something new. So it wasn't, done consciously. I mean, I would love to have had, one band like Jason. I'm so envious of him that he's always playing with these bands. It's the same lineup, Dangerous Toys. And I think you said, Dirty Looks is everybody except, you're the new guy. Right. I mean, I'm so jealous of all my friends' bands. They're always playing shows. It's because like Blitz, he's been in Overkill since I met him in 1982, and I keep changing my bands, but I do think that that's what has enabled me to have the outpouring of music that I've done, because I did 4 albums very quickly with Nathan Opposition, and I loved it. I loved it so much. And then we had I wrote too much material, and I'm like, well, now the coronavirus shut down. We can't even play shows. Maybe now's the time to have Jason. And it just, it was like that. There was no master plan. It just happened, which goes back to what Jason was saying. I've never gone upstairs and say, let me try and write a song. I mean, I think maybe 30 years ago, somebody said, why don't you try and write another song like The Leaders from Hades? And it was a disaster because I was trying to write a song, which previous to that point, I never did. And I never did that again.
But plenty of bands have done that for you, where they have that one big hit and every album has to have the B version of that song, the C version of that song. What's the point?
No, I don't get it.
Go ahead, Jason. I cut you off.
No, I was just going to say, I think forcing something, or just because it used to work with this concoction, doesn't mean it's always going to work. Like it's pretty simple when you just think something I just said, like, sometimes it's not inspiring me, and whether it's a song Dan sent me or not, and I just put it aside, and maybe I'll come back to it, or maybe I won't. I'm just not feeling that one. Send me some more. It's that old thing where let's just pretend that Dan sends me 10 songs. Over a time, all at once, it doesn't matter. And 5 of them, I'm like, oh, these are writing themselves. I got this. And, I send them back and done. He's go, well, where's the rest of it? No, you got to send me some more. Those didn't do anything for me. You see what I'm trying to say? So,
but that hasn't happened yet. I don't think you've ever not written to anything I've sent you. I don't believe so.
There might have been 1 or 2, but it was really early on. We're talking 13 years ago or something.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Where I just didn't even have time to really wrap my head around it, or I couldn't play it. It was a corrupt file, or
like what you were going back to. Yeah. I mean, like what Jason said, I mean, I wake up early and I'm on my phone, working for my job. And sometimes Season of Mist, who makes our t-shirts, or Nomad Eel, who has the American release of the album, or MDD Records, they'll ask both of us a question and I'll go to respond. And I'm like, fucking Jason already responded. Like, I'm not used to that. I'm used to people moving a little more slowly that I work with. So it's really been fun for me to work with Jason, who's incredibly quick on almost everything, as I am.
Very cool.
I get up old man early, and I know you do. You're up before I am.
Yeah.
And you're an hour ahead of me. So that's crazy.
Yeah. You're mentioning the dynamic between the two of you. You tried this 13 years ago then? Initially, this was...
It wasn't a project. It was just like, hey, I got this song. You want to sing on it? I think I still have it around here somewhere. It's just called Blues or something. And I had a couple of lines. I may have even recorded something on it.
I think what that was, Victor, was I had a band... the original Nonfiction was myself, Mike Christie, Dan Nastasi, who went on to join Dog Eat Dog, and this guy Damon Trotta. And we recorded an album called Number 9 after the Nonfiction broke up, the Nonfiction that put out the 3 records. And then we said, man, we had a bunch of cool material. And Dan Nastasi ended up not doing a solo album and not using that material. So I gave Jason some of that stuff, and my heart wasn't really into music at that point. I remember when we first made an attempt, but so the real Jason and I feel like we really came together as Cassius King. We started doing some cover songs together. Is kind of what started the whole thing.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, Victor, just like I said, like I think it was about 13 years ago. he emailed me a track and I plugged it in and, sang something to it. And I have it around here somewhere, but it wasn't supposed to be like there was no deadline, there was no label pushing for it. It was just like for fun. And then the cover song thing in the lockdowns, that was a no-brainer because I was stuck at home.
Right. Yeah. So many people needed something to do, so it only made sense to cover bands you love, as you mentioned.
It was kind of a good thing about a virus being out there and the government's suggesting that we just lock down. Good things came out of that. I mean, it's a terrible situation, but I'm gonna say it. I'm not the first to say it, but a lot of people got creative. I think that a lot of people got depressed and then got creative. And I mean, Charlie Benani was talking about that in some interviews that he was doing. And I bought his cover album, Silver Linings, and I love it. I think it's brilliant. I think it's a great idea. And of course, he had all these bad motherfuckers playing on it,
Right.
Alex Skolnick and shit. And so it's like, damn, so I was trying to support others during that, doing the same. And I felt like when Dan reached out, it was, well, this is a way that I can stay busy and not feel like I have to be bleeding heart to the world just to feel right myself, so I got busy and I didn't have time to get bummed out about anything. So thank you, Dan.
Yeah, I think that the silver lining with all of this, especially in the music industry, a lot of bands put out some of their best material, not only from a material standpoint, but sonically, because bands had the time to work on stuff where instead of being, album tour, they didn't have to rush it. So they worked more on songs, they worked more in the studio. And a lot of bands across the board, bigger bands, smaller bands, put out some good shit because of having that time to do so. So I think for a lot of people that was the silver lining. It kind of seemed weird to me that there were some musicians complaining, well, I can't go out and tour. So I've just been sitting on my couch for the last X amount of months. It's like, with the internet, with all the tools that are available now, there's nothing you can do to keep your business name out there, your band name out there, that you can't.
Yeah, that doesn't fly.
Yeah.
That doesn't fly. I can understand people of a certain age, but I mean, we're not spring chicken here. So so I feel like if there's an artist who's trying to stay relevant, they adapt. And then there's others that go, oh, well, what do you mean make a record? It's a lockdown. I can't go anywhere. Dude, the fucking guys in Voivod built a studio in the living room and built walls so they wouldn't have to breathe each other's breath and made one of the greatest Voivod records ever during the lockdown in Canada. So that was happening worldwide. So, for someone to think, oh, well, everything's shut down, I can't go to the studio and cut a vocal. It's like, dude, get on Amazon and buy some shit and make a fucking little studio and write some songs, asshole,
Yeah.
Like
Absolutely.
it doesn't, I don't understand that.
Yeah. Well, and the you guys know this better than I do. The whole thing is dumping hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, into an album that's done and over with. When I see people online that are, trying to crowdfund $500,000 to record a new album, it's like, seriously, with today's technology? I'm not saying you don't hire somebody competent to mix it or engineer it or even produce it.
No,
But
I'm not. I'm not saying. I'm just saying for someone to go, oh, poor me. I guess I can't record anything. The
yeah.
industry is shut down. I'm just gonna glue my ass to the couch.
Yeah,
That doesn't make sense.
And you know what you guys are reminding me of? Like, when I grew up, Twisted Sister was the be all end all in New Jersey area. And how, they say, like, we're not going to write new material anymore because the fans don't care. And then I think about that, man. I need to write new material to keep my interest, and then I go back and check out the back catalog. But I don't want to diss Dee Snider because I think he's awesome. But I remember him saying also how he couldn't write those type of songs anymore when he was sitting in his millionaire pool with all the. And I'm like I wrote some songs when I was really poor. The first couple of Hades albums, all the nonfiction albums, and then when I started making money, I feel like I got even heavier. It's really weird how everybody feels different things. How Dee feels like he needs to be depressed and poor to write heavy music, and I just feel like I'm happier than I've ever been, and I'm writing more than I've ever been, and it's still angry, heavy music. So it's funny how everybody is so different.
Yeah, that's.
I'm certain that Dee Snider could have written some songs, but he wasn't feeling it. It's a place he was in his head, not just where he was physically, I think. Because not to talk about Dee Snider, although I would love to talk about Dee for about 4 hours because I love him, but the point is he writes any kind of song he feels like he wants to write, and I think that that's great. His solo out, he's writing solo albums now, and he did a string of dates to back it up, and he's got Jamie Josta from Hatebreed producing it. He's kind of a renaissance man, as it were. He does radio show. He works hard.
Yeah.
So I know what you mean. I heard the same thing. I think it was an article or something where some quotes where Dee was, here I was out at the pool in my mansion with a guitar, and I can't, okay, we're not going to take it number 3, I can't do it. I'm going back in the water. I can kind of see how that might be a wall to climb for some people. But I think that if you can put yourself mentally in the basement, sweating your ass off when you're 20 years old, you can write a song. I think that it's the idea that you need, it's not the mansion or the gutter that is the problem to keep you from writing a song. It's you. You're telling yourself that you can't do it, and that's not healthy. So
I think all this music that we love, hard rock and metal, is a feeling, is a state of mind. So regardless whether you're, as you're saying, in a mansion or you are, in a gutter, if you've got that attitude still, regardless,
right.
I think that comes out of you without really trying all that hard. Ironically enough, my very first interview was Dee Snider when he put Widowmaker together.
Oh, that was a good band. I think nonfiction, I'm pretty sure it was Widowmaker. We played with them in Los Angeles, and they came out, and I'm like, this is going to be lame, Dee Snider's, and it was amazing. It was really good stuff.
Yeah.
I saw that here in Austin as well.
I bullshit my way into doing that interview. So, and he talked about that. He talked about exactly what you just said. I couldn't write anything. I had a few Ferraris, I had 5 mansions, and I couldn't sing about rebellion and being hungry because I was happy and had 5 kids and this, that, and the other thing. And unfortunately, he recently said he's not going to do any more solo stuff. And I think his 2 solo albums he did were phenomenal. I had Charlie Belmore, who's his guitarist for the stuff with Josta. I had him on to talk about one of his bands. And the stuff they've done, I think, is great. A great mix of that old school angst, a great mix of, what you want from Dee. I mean, I see that Chris from Decibel Geek has just mentioned Stand By for Pain. That was the second Widowmaker album. I go back to that style after that album. Angry Angstfield was missing all these years, and he finally came back to it with Josta. And it's a shame that he maybe doesn't want to continue with that now, but we'll see. Hopefully he changes his mind.
Victor, can I interrupt and say thank you very much to Brad Dahl? I'm looking at some of your listeners here and the Amish Outlaws again. Thank you so much, Jeremy. Appreciate it very much. And yeah, thanks, guys. I like seeing these message boards.
Yeah.
When are we going to get to hear these songs live? Boy, that's a tough one. So that's the problem with starting a brand new band is people don't want to pay you a lot of money to play shows. So Jimmy Shulman, myself, and Ron Lipnicki, we all live within 10 miles of each other. And then we got poor Jason all the way out in Austin. And I asked Jason if we could play live, and he told me, yeah, dude, if you join Accept or Armored Saint, let's do it. But, you know, that's the only time I get to see Jason is when he joins these other famous bands. So we would love to play live. And it's just, you know, we're not opposed to breaking even or losing a couple dollars, but we don't want to lose thousands of dollars, which is what I did with Vessel of Light. We played shows and I was bankrolling it, and it was fun as hell. But it would be very easy because the three of us are close, and we just need we need to come to Austin or have Jason come up here. But you know, we want to play in front of.
Sounds cheaper to me to have the Texan come to Jersey.
Yeah, but then we also have to have Scott LePage, who played. I
could pick him up. I could go to Dallas and pick him up. We'd fly out of Dallas.
But yeah, so we're not opposed to playing live shows. I forget who asked the question, but it's nothing is scheduled right now, unfortunately. Oh, it was Brad Dahl. Thank you, Brad.
You mean you don't want to play South by Southwest? The last time that I spoke to Jason, we had a lengthy conversation regarding that. So
it was fun playing all those, you know, CMJ shows. They were great shows, but everything's so different now. But we're not opposed to anything. Just give us some offers, though.
There you go. Get
yeah, there probably won't be any money in it.
Probably not.
No, and it's not about money, but who's going to pay for it? Who's going to pay for us to get together? It's kind of it's a labor of love, and I'd honestly, instead of going broke just to play a show for a few friends, I feel like writing as great a record as we possibly can, because we're not making money off of that, but it's cheaper to make a record than it is for us to all get in a room and play for a few friends.
Yeah.
Would doing something like a live stream, or I mean, none of these live streams are really live, but doing something along those lines, getting together, doing a show, releasing that online or even DVD or something like that, would that make more sense?
You know, I really like this idea. Let's talk about this with Dan, Victor. So Dan, imagine you guys over at J-Rod's studio.
Yeah.
Playing the songs live with a video camera crew, just a couple of people with iPhones, right? But it's you guys are really playing live, and you record it on video and audio. J-Rod mixes it, right? Sends it to me. I set up a camera here and I sing the songs really live. I'm really singing them live to the live feed that you guys put together, pre-recorded, but you guys are in a room together, obviously playing live. And then we take the footage and we edit it all together. We being someone like that looks like this, and basically we have a live show that people can watch. That's totally doable. Totally doable.
I'm going to tell Jimmy Shulman we're going to have our first rehearsal in 2 years together next month, Victor. Jimmy Shulman and I are going to celebrate his birthday Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday next week in South Beach, and then he's going to come back, and he promised me we'd have rehearsal for my birthday next month, and that'll be the first time that myself, Jimmy, and Ron have jammed together in like 2 years, I believe.
Oh, happy birthday, Jimmy Shulman!
First wave of COVID, I believe we had a rehearsal with Nathan for like before. I think it was right after Last Ride came out by Vessel of Light. So yeah, I'm not opposed to what you're saying, Jason, but also can I mention a couple things about Cassius King? Is that we're signed to MDD Records in Germany, and the MDD version has a Judas Priest cover song, and the Nomad Eel Records version has 2 Kiss cover songs. So There's 2 versions of the CD. The artwork is pretty much the same, at least the cover is, but there's different bonus tracks on each version, whether you get the Nomad Eel version or the MDD records. And as far as our merch, Season of Mist in south of France, as well as Philadelphia, they make all of our merchandise. So please support us any way you can. And there's a better likelihood of us doing shows if the word gets out there a little more. And there's, like Jason said, we don't lose $3,000 playing a show.
Yeah. It makes sense. It's all about economics at the end of the day. And I've interviewed plenty of bands, the same boat, where they've said, hey, I'm not opposed to breaking even so long as
totally. That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, good tour. We get a good response. The rush that we get from the crowd makes it worthwhile, so long as we're not losing our asses every single show.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. I think it would be a great, I'm just starting to connect dots in my brain. I think that it would sound a little bit different, like the live, the pre-recorded, not almost live DVD, if you will, or a show that we can just fly off of a website or a server or something, because there won't be any backing vocals. You know what I mean? It's just going to be me, because I do all the vocals by choice. And I feel like it'll be a cool challenge to do those songs in that sort of headspace, because in the choruses I like to do a low and a high and maybe a harmony or two, and it'll be interesting to see what marriage of different, because when you do that, or when I do that, the way that because I've done that with other bands too. Well, shit, I'm the only singer in my band Igniter, and I do all kinds of harmonies on the choruses for those, but I get to choose which note in which phrase. So I'm actually creating a new melody,
right,
from all of the notes that I sang via all of the harmonies that I did.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of an interesting play, but makes it really fun for me as a singer to this one I'll do the high, and the next line I'll go up into that third harmony, come back down, and then do the fifth on the last one out. Could be really interesting to hear, Royal Blooded or Dread the Dawn or whatever, where there's harmonies and I get to choose my own melody.
Mm-hmm.
Back to what Dan was plugging there, the how people can get our stuff. If you're a vinyl freak, that stuff is coming out on vinyl. Nomad Eel Records has already pulled the trigger on that, and I think you can pre-order now from Nomad Eel's Bandcamp site, but at the same time, they need to know that it's not coming out until January, February. They can pre-order now, but they're not going to get it until next year.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that. I'm excited about having it on vinyl.
Yeah.
That's the childhood thing, the ritual where you buy the record. Oh yeah, you smell it as you pull it out, and then you got the big, oh yeah, there's something about that.
Yeah,
Still.
absolutely. Yeah, I hope to make it stateside next year, and unfortunately, one of the things that I got to take is a big suitcase, because I got a bunch of vinyls that I've been bitching to Dan about over the last few years that cost way too much to get shipped to me, so I'll have to bring them back in a suitcase. So
it can be done.
Yeah, that will be one of the vinyls that will be accompanying their way back over to this side of the world. So
this Brad Dahl is on fire, man.
Brad, as we affectionately call him, Dr. Poison, is a recently retired doctor who worked for Poison Control out in Utah. So
wow,
I'm trying to get him to do a podcast just talking about some of the interesting calls that he's had over the years. He's told plenty a good story while I've had him on the show. So
I bet. Well, is he Brad? Are you in Utah?
Yeah, he is.
Okay, it's beautiful there. Pretty incredible, Utah.
Absolutely.
One of the few states I've never been to, but my wife was there this summer, and man, I got to go back. I got to go there. It looks great.
It's pretty mind blowing. Pretty much year round. You can go year round when the seasons change and there's just a little bit of snow on the ground. It's like you're on another planet.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen he's been posting pictures. They've gotten snow these last few days, and it's looked really cool.
Awesome.
So, real quickly, you've been in the news for Dan mentioned it before, for doing some shows with Accept, some shows with Armored Saint. Coming out of COVID, there was all this talk of understudies and people hanging out like in the wing in the event that someone got sick in different bands. Obviously, I'm not sure if that's the case for you at all, but obviously you filled in with both of these bands. What was that process like? I mean, were you friends with the band and that's why they reached out to you? Did you reach out to them?
Armored Saint. I've been chummy with those guys for 40 years.
Okay.
38 years or something, because I saw them on their first tour with Metallica and Wasp, which is whom they're out with now.
Right.
I loved the first record and the EP on Metal Blade, and met the guys, and became pen pals with John Bush, and so getting the call from them was different, because they knew my number, kind of thing, right? And then the Accept thing a few weeks prior fell in my lap via like Wolf Hall. Mark Tornillo came up with this upper respiratory thing. Tried to power through it, and was in danger of bruising. I think he had some bruising, and had to go to the doctor, specialist kind of shit. And they called real quick. I'll do the rundown. So there's this guy, Ed Aborn, who was in a band called Siren from Florida, that there's a movie out. I'm plugging his stuff here. The movie is called, people can watch it. It's on YouTube. It's everywhere. People can watch it. It's called I'm Getting Too Old for This Shit.
Right.
And what happened is they had this cool metal band called Siren in the 80s. And, 30 years later, Keep It True called, hey, can you put your band back together and come play our festival? And they were like, what? Right. So Ed Aborn is the drummer for that band. So Ed Aborn is friends with, he knows a lot of the same people I know. I can't believe I never met Ed Aborn before. So before this Accept deal, Wolf is friends with Ed Aborn. So Wolf calls Ed and goes, hey man, Mark needs to sit out for a little bit. We can't cancel, we'll go broke if we cancel. So he goes, let me put feelers out. Well, Ed is also friends with the guys in Riot. So he calls Todd Michael Hall, the singer, and he goes, are you available to do this Accept gig? I don't think I'm the right guy, or I'm busy, or I don't know what he said, but he goes, let me call Don Van Stavern, who's the bass player for Riot, who I've known since 1982 because he lives in San Antonio, and Watchtower and San Antonio Slayer used to play gigs all the time with Hellstar.
Right.
So there's this lineage with Don Van Stavern that, he's my bro, he's literally my bro. So Todd Michael Hall, Riot, calls Don, bass player Riot, and I get this cryptic text from Don that says, hey man, you want to sing some Accept? And I'm like, of course I want to sing some Accept. When are we, tribute band? Are we gonna make what's going on? Let's do it. And he's like,
right.
No, dude, their singer got sick. I'm like, what are you talking about? Call this guy. It's Ed Aborn's number. I call Ed, dude. And he goes, dude. And I go, dude. And he goes, dude. And I'm like, what the hell? 10 minutes later, I'm on the phone with Wolf Hoffman. So that was kind of a series of events. And then 15 hours later, I'm on a plane to Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Right.
That would have been the 19th of October. The 20th, I did a full set. 21st, Mark was feeling better. He came back and we tag teamed 3 shows. I came home. I'm sitting in my robe with my dog in my lap, a few weeks after that, going, wow, this has been a very strange month. And hello, hey, you need to call the Armored Saint guys right fucking now. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Same verbatim, same thing. Next day, I'm on a plane, did 4 shows, came home. Craziest shit that's ever happened to me.
Right. If any other band calls you out of the blue, does it depend who the band is for you to say yes?
Well, what's cool is I love Accept and I love Armored Saint,
Right.
and phonetically I just phonetically I know that material.
Right.
That style is how I cut my teeth as a singer.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of like, I feel like Accept had a short list and Armored Saint had a list of one person, and it was me.
Mm-hmm.
I think John Bush came off stage one night, and was like, call
Yeah.
McMaster.
Wow.
And it didn't hurt that he knows that I just filled in with Accept and
Right.
da 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 da. It was a series of events, but it was like a chain reaction. It was literally a couple of hours after their Philadelphia set, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. If you think filling in for Accept kind of opened their eyes to, hey, let's just call him. He just did this for Accept.
Yeah, and the fact that they already know me, they know me as that I'm a fan, and they probably knew in the back of their head that I'm a fanboy too. So I was because I was trying to not follow those guys around like a puppy dog, because I love Armored Saint, I love
Right.
them, and so it was good. So it was just I was treated extremely well with Accept and extremely well with Armored Saint. I was just closer to Armored Saint. That's all.
Right. Gotcha. Dan, if anyone calls you up and says, hey, we need a Les Paul on the left side of the stage.
I would love to fill in. Malcolm Young is deceased, obviously, but I feel like I could pull that off.
Okay.
That would be my thing. But really, it's really funny because people, like, if they heard my music, they would never think this, but I would love to fill in for Rick Nielsen one night.
Right.
The old Cheap Trick stuff is just, I love playing that stuff. Ron and Jimmy goes to the bathroom and Jimmy that's the stuff we're jamming on, the old Kiss, the old Cheap Trick.
Right.
Yeah,
Hey.
there's something about that old material, man.
Yeah, that was fun stuff to play.
Yeah.
They had Robin Zander's kid recently filling in for him.
Yeah.
So who knows?
On guitar?
Wow. On guitar.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Filling in for Rick?
Filling in for Rick.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So they had Rick's son on drums and Robin's on guitar.
Wow. Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was for a few shows.
Well,
yeah, Ron and I are hoping that Jason will be asked to join Kiss, and Gene Simmons and Tommy Thayer and Eric Singer will get sick, and then it'll just be Gene Simmons and the three of us. We're hoping,
Okay.
I think that to answer your question, you did ask me a question. I would like to say it does matter who's calling me. I feel like there should be some kind of levy or cap on what job I should be hired for. But here's another thing. If it's something that I just don't really care about, I probably shouldn't take the gig, even if the money's really good.
Well, you've been known for dabbling in some Metallica and some Judas Priest, if I'm not mistaken.
It's true.
Let's say for whatever reason, Priest wants to fill out the left side of the stage. They want someone who can sing backing vocals and help cover for Rob. Something like that.
Well, that sounds great. And I would just be the water boy for Judas Priest. I would just go, I'd just be running bar on the side of the stage for those guys. No, I just saw Rob sounded great. I just saw Queensryche and Judas Priest last week, and it was incredible. Right. That tour just finished up, and they did a whole year of that lineup, and I think it's a killer. Queensryche and Judas Priest, they need to do Europe like that. They just need to take the whole thing to Europe.
Yeah, Priest is going to be opening up for Ozzy over here whenever that happens. Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah. Is there a festival happening over there that has Judas Priest and Kiss and Pantera, or is that in South America?
Both. I think it's both because festival dates have started coming out. Like Download has come out, Sweden Rock. Yeah. And I know Pantera's on both. I'm not sure about Kiss. I know Priest is on a few of them, which was part of what we were discussing before you guys came on. We were talking about the new Metallica and how Pantera is going to be opening for Metallica on this tour. And one of the things that we discussed was it's kind of weird with that name that they're not the head of the bill on any of these festivals. They're like the second band under the
Pantera.
Headline. Yeah,
but it's not Pantera technically.
I said my theory that I threw out there is that they're dipping their toes in the water, getting people accustomed to what this lineup is going to be. Once things kind of settle down, because obviously you have all of these, people that are instantly shitting on it without them playing a single note. I think once everyone sees that it's okay to come out and play again.
Victor, I was thinking that it's fun, and if you want to go see it, go see it. And I like the lineup is cool. But I was just reading a Vinnie Paul interview, that was out there. I don't want to give the website any credence. You probably know what website it is, and he was just saying never going to happen. This obviously what it was like. So that's what gives me the whole bad taste. All these people, like when they tour. I remember I toured with the band, and the guitar player told me this band can't go on without me. And then he passed away, and the band went on without him. So I mean, just the fact that Vinnie Paul, he did not want this to happen. So that's what gives me the weirdness about it. Like, I love Pantera. I would love to see Pantera again. I mean, but it's like going against Vinny's wishes, which is, to me, that's really weird. It's like, not only, they're saying they're honoring Pantera, but you're almost like dishonoring somebody who passed away's wishes. Like if I told Jason, hey man, if I die, do not play a Cassius King show. That's kind of weird if he does, man,
Right. The thing
it's bittersweet no matter what.
Yeah.
Was Jason just crying?
No, I think that I was just saying it was bittersweet.
Yeah, I know. I'm joking. You kind of coughed before you said it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a no-win situation. And earlier this week, Vinny's estate came out saying we're kind of behind this. This is going to be a tribute to the Abbott brothers. We don't want the music to die. Yeah, and ultimately it all comes down to that. Because, opening for Metallica, they're not getting wooden pennies for that. They're raking in a good amount of money. And all these festival dates, they're making good money out of it and planned out correctly. And that's one of the things that we talked about, because I don't think the question with this lineup are the two new guys coming in. I think ultimately it comes down to, is Phil's voice going to hold up? And from what we're seeing with these Metallica dates, they're doing 2 shows a week. I can't help but think on my show for years, I've been saying, why the fuck is Kiss playing every night or every other night if we know that there are vocal issues? Play once a fucking week. You're still going to pack the place, and you could probably play to bigger crowds, bigger places, because you're doing less shows and you're saving Paul's voice.
Yeah, but how do you pay the crew for the other 6 nights when you're out on tour? That's why bands play every night,
Metallica's charging $7,000 for some of these fucking packages. And there's people that are going to pay. Yeah. I don't get it, but us suckers as consumers.
There's an elitist thing happening. You see all those people that are down front, getting to have conversations with James Hetfield. They, in between songs, there he's looking down, going, "Oh yeah, cool shirt, yeah." Well, the person that he's talking to paid $7,000,
right?
Or I don't know, but I would imagine that, a seat like that, to be right there in the pit, is not free,
right?
But some really good points being made here on a lot of levels. I don't know if those guys are tuning down to help Philip's voice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so. I could find out with a text message because my buddy Bobby, who I have a band called Godzilla Motor Company with,
Mm-hmm.
he's the bass tech. He's out there with Rex, and he was in Down for a couple of years.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm talking about Bobby Landgraf. And yeah. So he, it's gonna go well, but I don't think that. I think that your point is great. They're sort of testing the waters,
right?
And as a matter of fact, I saw a clickbait and I hit it, and they're playing tonight with Judas Priest in Mexico City, I think. And there was a camera phone like through the fence of a Pantera playing Cowboys from Hell for sound check. And I couldn't tell because of how unreliable the audio was.
Right.
If they were tuned down a little bit, but what I heard sounded great. It was Cowboy. That's fucking Cowboys from Hell. I can hear the riff. I can hear Philip. I can hear the kick and the snare. You can't make out the bass because of frequency, but
right.
It's a lot of the haters are gonna start seeing things like that and go, you know what? I got to go see this shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like what? Axl Rose with AC/DC? Fuck that. And then the videos, the camera phone videos came out, and like he's fucking crushing it,
Yeah.
And they're like, damn, I shouldn't have sold my ticket. So there's a lot of that gonna go down. Whether Dan's very valid point about, it's against Vinny's wishes. That's terrible that all this time has passed, that both of those guys are even gone so young, and this is their legacy. And I guarantee the estate is going to cash in a little bit on that, and their family, whoever's left, because I think their parents are gone too. Whoever's in charge, it's going to just create more foundation for future Pantera fans. And that if there's any positive, you kind of have to think about that. 30 years ago, you got to think about the kids that missed it, that grew up with their dad shoving Pantera down their throat. Right. It's going to be pretty cool for the kids to go, oh my God, my favorite band who I never got to see because they fucking died. I get to hear these songs live with bands I own records from. I love Zach. I love Charlie. I love Anthrax. I love Black Label. Blah, blah, blah. Incredible. Would be different if it was only one guy, If Philip was gone, it wouldn't happen at all. No disrespect to Rex at all, but that's not. I don't think it's in Rex's nature to try to do that. I think that it was a pact that him and I'm just riffing here. Don't point the finger at me. I'm just riffing here, thinking that I think Philip and Rex got together and said, "Man, this is weird. You sure?" I'm sure that this is being a lot of long nights of no sleep, trying to do we do this or not do this?
So now when I send the press release out, that will simply say Dan Lorenzo and Jason McMaster of Cassius King on Signals from Mars. When the clickbait headline comes out and says Jason McMaster says that Pantera did this, just remember that I didn't send that out because that's the type of shit that usually happens.
Yeah, I know that, but I think that, this conversation is happening 1 million times right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah,
So
yeah, absolutely.
let that be there for the record as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I understand how it works, and I'm just playing along with what everybody else is talking about.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're at the end of the day, I think, regardless of where each of us stand with all of this, I think we're all fans one way or the other. So, I mean, right now we're commenting as fans. So,
That's right. And
yeah,
I think music is the way. I think that it's part of culture and legacy and historical events uh need to happen
mhm,
uh for the culture, because we are helping build the culture.
mhm,
And I think these guys deciding to do this in as positive of a way as possible is really where their hearts are at. You have to think about um Zach and Charlie's relationship with the Abbott brothers, as well
yeah,
as Rex and Philip,
mhm,
for 40 years.
right. Yeah,
That's something right there.
I think, and Charlie said something regarding that this week. He said something to the extent of, not because I'm the drummer in this lineup, but I would have been pissed if it was somebody else because of the relationship I had with
Wow.
the Abbott brothers
Yeah.
and with Rex and um and Phil. And because of that, I want to make sure that I honor, what the band was about.
Yeah.
So
It was actually Rita. I read that Charlie says it was actually Rita Haney, Daryl's longtime girlfriend, common
mhm,
law wife, uh, was the one that introduced, like Pantera opened for Anthrax on their first tour.
right.
Watchtower did the Austin show,
Mhm,
and then of course Pantera did the Dallas, the Fort Worth shows, right? And Rita was like, talking to Anthrax, "Ah, I love you. Hey man, you need to meet these guys." Da 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 da. And they just hit it off, and
yeah,
the party was on, and they stayed close. So there's, when you think about historical magnetism of personalities, and it's the culture. You're building the culture just by cool shirt.
right.
Hey man, cool shirt. That's when first day of high school. Oh, that guy's wearing a Motorhead shirt. That's my new best friend, and he doesn't even know it yet. It's the
Right.
same fucking thing.
Yeah.
So that's how this works. As mundane and stupid as that sounds, it's not.
Right.
So
Speaking of building the culture, Dan, I know you're working on riffs. What
Yep.
riffs are you working on now? What band do you have in mind? Is it more Cassius King? Is it
Well, I'm kind of going because I started the Patriarchs in Black album after I finished writing Cassius King, but the album came out first. That's the album with Johnny Kelly on drums. Carl Legel sings a bunch of songs. So I already have 10 or 11 songs, the music recorded for the next Patriarchs in Black. Johnny just did drums for one song, one original, and maybe 2 or 3 covers. But then there's like 8 or 9 originals he'll start recording soon. So yeah, I do. I keep writing, and that's the next thing is the next Patriarchs in Black, the second album, the follow up.
okay? Cool. Jason, anything else because I mean there's a battle here, but or not really a battle, but both of you guys have a ton of different, things that you guys are always working on.
you're saying both of us have too much time on our hands, so we just fill it up with writing songs and performing?
No, you guys know how to manage your time correctly. How about that?
Oh, good. That's a
Yeah.
better. That's very good. I we both have a day job, quote, right? So everything is sort of in between, making the bread and the butter. Uh, uh, and that's fine because I'm not. I had a meeting this morning with Jared, my producer for my podcast, but he's also my guitar player in Broken Teeth. We started. We've been throughout just the past like 3 years, because it's been a while since Broken Teeth put out a record.
Right.
We have some parts that we've put together, and we actually have a couple of song ideas, so we're probably gonna be recording sooner than later once we get a couple of things demoed out. Yeah.
Cool.
And so that's kind of exciting, because it's just been way too long, and he's a real busy guy, and I'm kind of busy too.
Right.
So, but when he lives close by, so it's easy. It's 5-minute drive. So just go over and bring a stack of lyrics, just parts,
Right.
I've got a liver and a heart and a leg and a finger and a toe and and
Right.
we're just going to try to build some Broken Teeth music. No idea when any of that'll come together or be released, but the plan is always with Broken Teeth too, when we have enough songs, make a fucking record. That's always it. It's not really a single kind of a band.
Gotcha. Okay.
Dangerous Toys has a bunch of material we haven't written in a while. This has been over the past like few years as well. There's about 7 or 8 unheard Dangerous Toys songs. Unless you've seen us live over the past couple of years, we have 2 new songs in the set, and they're really fun and cool, and they fit, and they've been getting good response. So other than that, there's no deadline. So
Right.
there's no, it's like there's no deadline until there is. Actually, I wasn't used to having a deadline until I started working with Dan. Dan's like, "Oh, you got 5 more songs to write, and the records, they need the artwork, and the masters by this date." And I'm like, "Dude, that's 6 weeks from now." So, man, you work fast, Jason. There's this double-edged sword, of compliments going on. It's like, yeah, I work fast because you said the fucking deadline is in 6 weeks, and I have to go to work right now. So kind of I was up for the challenge though. So somebody made a comment that I'm not complaining or anything like that, but someone commented on my in the comments for my I have a podcast called the Talk Louder Podcast, and me and my co-host have been doing these exclusives. We did one for Jason with Accept, and now it's like, holy shit, what? Jason with Armored Saint. And it's kind of, I almost feel like we have to, just to kind of like, this is how it happened, and this is exactly what was going on backstage, on the phone, on the plane, on the stage. Here's my feelings while I'm performing. And it's literal play by play. And the Armored Saint thing, since I was in Jersey, I even mentioned, and I even like had a little sit down with Cassius King dudes, before pre-show hang with Cassius King, which is fucking rare, But anyway, so we're doing this. So the comments I was reading, there's this huge Armored Saint fan, and this comment is rather long and just talking about how I choked the first night watching videos like a hawk. I kind of choked, and I'm agreeing with him. I totally choked on a couple of the songs that were painful to someone. It's like, oh fuck, you missed the first lines, kind of shit. And I'm like, you're not wrong. It's the skin of my teeth. I was in my robe on my couch yesterday, so give me a break. But then by the end of the week, it's killer, and I'm happy, and I'm warmed up to the whole thing, and then it's over, and yada yada yada. But Ready to Rock, forced to work by either wanting to help someone out of a bind or Dan Lorenzo saying, so you got 5 more songs and the deadline is in 6 weeks. So I'm busy enough,
Right.
just by the sky falling. That's you can't stop the clock. So whatever is in front of me, I may not see it until tomorrow, but I'm ready to jump. So
Right. So Dan the Taskmaster Lorenzo.
yeah.
Nah. I don't. Well, maybe a little bit. Yeah.
You know what? I think that guy's handle was Taskmaster. That's fucking weird.
Well, a lot of coincidences.
Yeah, that's weird. That's weird. Anyway, and I appreciated his comment, and I even told him that, and you're exactly right and everything, just
Yeah.
for the record. Yeah.
Has he ever tried playing, being in that same situation where you're filling in, or if
this guy in the comments area, it's not a chat room, it's literal verbiage. No, he's self-admitted he's got his heart on his sleeve. He goes, I'm not a singer, but when I saw you choke the first line in Symbol of Salvation, that was brutal and it fucked me up, and I'm not a fan of yours at all. And then like just a few sentences later is like, but by Friday, the videos I saw, you're fucking crushing. And you know what I mean? It was like his story was reality as it was playing out during the week that I was out there with those guys. So it was very interesting to me just to hear him go from fuck you, dude, to like, oh my God, So it was kind of a trip. But I don't know if I can meet Dan's deadline, but I'm gonna do my goddamnedest to.
right. Yeah, I think comments like that are usually from people that have never picked up an instrument or played in a band to know what it's like to under that circumstance. If you're playing wrong shit, you fuck up from time to time.
That's right. It's live. It's live. No rehearsal. There's no net.
Yeah.
The only net I have is headphones on the plane, study in the notebook, take the notebook on the stage, tape it to the stage, and gonzo, hit it. Here goes nothing.
Yeah.
But I think that and the guy complimented just one more thing about this guy. He said, the first thing he said was, first off, you have giant balls of steel to even try to go on and attempt to do, justice for John Bush. And I'm like, here, bro. You're saying everything right. Very interesting conversation. And you know what? It's been nothing but crazy and fun and very interesting and strange, very strange. Dan, when can I expect new Cassius King riffs?
I have something I was actually working on last night that I played you over the phone that I said I wrote a riff for Broken Teeth, and you're like, no, that's a riff for Cassius King.
That's right.
I wrote, it sounds like AC/DC, Victor, and then I wrote another part. It's just so perfect. It sounds nothing like AC/DC, but I have a verse, chorus. It's so kick-ass. I just can't figure out where to go with it yet, but it'll happen hopefully.
I love it that you're excited about it, and it doesn't scare me that you think that it sounds like AC/DC.
No, I know.
When I hear it, though, like you just explained, when I hear it, it's like that sounds like Dan Lorenzo.
That's right.
It's so funny. Sound like AC/DC. To me, it sounds like Dan Lorenzo.
Yeah, well, that's great.
I feel like I can, whatever Dan is writing, it's like, okay, I'm going to keep these here for this project, and I'm going to keep these here for Cassius King. He could send me the wrong batch of songs that he was, okay, these are going to be, Patriarchs in Black. He could accidentally send me those, and I will have written the song. You know what I mean? Right. Oh, well, here you go. And he's like, oh shit, did I send you the? See, to me, it's the same. It's the same.
It is. Yeah.
It's the same shit because it's Dan Lorenzo. It's not oh, these are Patriarchs in Black, and these are Cassius King, and these are Vessel of Light. It's the same shit to me.
Yeah,
so,
could have all been nonfiction, in my opinion.
Which is a compliment.
Thank you. I don't know the way you meant it. Yeah, I take it that way. Thank you.
Yeah, good.
Awesome. Cool. So let's plug shit now. Where can people keep up with it's danlorenzo.net?
Yeah, and my Instagram's Dan Lorenzo CK. Cassius King Band is the Instagram. Patriarchs in Black is the Instagram. Vessel of Light Band. And you know what? I also did another. I just got vinyl a couple of days ago. It's called it's a Judas Priest double LP tribute record, and Rob Dukes and I. It's called Dukes Lorenzo. We have Metal Gods on there with Ron Lipnicki on drums and my brother-in-law Jimmy on bass. That just came out on vinyl. It's really a nice package.
Cool.
That's it for me. The Cassius King, though, is what we're pushing here. So MDD Records in Europe and Nomad Eel Records in America.
Excellent. Jason, you got the podcast. You've got all the bands as well. You're also going to be appearing at Rockin' Pod Expo in March, which I know because
in Nashville.
I'm their web designer. So
wow,
nice.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
small world.
Yeah.
Well, in like 3/5 of Accept live in Nashville, so I'm hoping that the Accept guys come say hi. That'll be fun. I am a .net as well as danlorenzo.net. It's jasonmcmaster.net. So I don't know if Dan knew that we're both .nets.
No, I haven't. I'm gonna take off and I'm gonna check out your website. And what are Signals from Mars? We get the link. I know some people watch live, but you'll send us a link.
Yeah, I'll send you the link when the press release. When I send the press release go out, I'll copy you in it, and that'll have links to the post, the video, and the audio version of it.
Awesome.
Yeah, my Insta is Jason McMaster 666.
Awesome.
So anybody, and Cassius King does have a Facebook page. There's a couple of videos there, but you just Google me and Dan, and you're gonna find everything.
For sure.
Cool. To wrap things up, can I get an ID out of either one of you?
Both of us.
Both of you guys. All right. Name, band, and you're on Signals from Mars.
Hey, this is Dan Lorenzo from Cassius King, and you're listening to Signals from Mars.
Excellent.
Hey, what's up, freaks? It's Jason McMaster from Cassius King, and you're listening to Signals from Mars.
Awesome. I want to thank both of you guys for all this time.
Thank you, Victor.
I knew that I needed to hook up with you guys sooner than we usually hook up, Dan, because I knew that this was going to go long, and I have to coach a basketball game in 7 hours. So
get some sleep, brother.
So I wanted to make sure that I could get you guys in here and help promote the album, and it's been fun talking to you guys. And as always, Dan, let's not make this 11 years. Same thing, right. Jason. Anytime you guys want to come back, I'm more than happy to have you guys back to talk about any project, talk about music, whatever you guys want.
Great.
Thanks so much, Victor.
Thanks for having us.
Jace.
Yep.
Awesome.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Awesome. So that concludes tonight's extra jam-packed long episode of Signals from Mars. I want to thank Chris Czynszak, Chris Akin for joining me for the first part of the show. Obviously, Jason McMaster and Dan Lorenzo for this last part of the show. This will be split up in 2 different podcasts. Hope you guys enjoy this. And I want to thank everyone. I don't know if my mic is messing up here somehow. Sounds funny to me. Anyway, I do want to thank Ed Ferguson, Brad Dahl, Jeremy Weltman. Let's see. We also had Amish Outlaws in here. We had Chris Czynszak, who also jumped in the chat as well. Nomad Eel Records as well. Thank everyone for jumping in the chat and sending their comments and questions and all that great stuff. Thank you for watching this live or listening to the replay. I say this all the time. I know that you guys can be listening to or watching a million other things, but it means a lot that you guys choose to be here and listen to this. Thank you for being here. Go to signalsfrommars.com to check out more interviews or music discussions. You can find how to follow us on Facebook, Patreon, Instagram, Twitter, all that great stuff. Trivia Tuesday exclusively on Twitch every Tuesday or most Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. in the UK, 12 p.m. or 12 a.m. For Central European time zone like myself. In any event, thank you once again for watching tonight, and we will see you next time right here on Signals from Mars. See ya.
Thank you for watching the Signals from Mars live stream. You can watch the show live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch, or check out replays on YouTube. Go to signalsfrommars.com for more information. This concludes our show.